Hey Randy, how's it going? Hey, what's up, Doug Becker? How's it going, bro? Just getting some things set up, and then we'll get into the live stream. Good to hear, man. Yeah, it's Friday. I know everybody's ready for the weekend, depending on your work schedule. You guys do me a favor. I'll hit the like button, and I get a $10 every time you hit the like button. No, I'm just kidding. I'd be rich if that was true. I get nothing, but it does help the algorithm possibly help show it to other people. So I appreciate you guys just clicking that button. Just enjoying the crazy ride. Yeah, I actually want to interact with you guys today, whoever shows up, whether it's a couple people, a decent amount of people, and just kind of ask you guys questions. And I'll be using the board and writing it down and stuff. But I think there's some really interesting topics when it comes to Safemoon and the psychology, the mentality behind Safemoon, on investors' mindsets, to why did it succeed, to like what was the intention of Safemoon, what was it made for, and what is it changed to now. I really think those are extremely important things to be looking at, especially like here's something I've been thinking about a lot lately is like a lot of people who are in a project, they more so want to hear an idea that sorry, that means that fuels their like idea or dream of being rich. So they're more prone to want to talk about those things. And while it's exciting and fun to talk about, what's more important in my perspective to the future of Safemoon is us being real with each other and being actually educated and understanding things, not overhyping things, not thinking things are going to be huge that actually aren't going to be huge. Because the more realistic and informed perspective we have, the more realistic expectation we'll have of the team. And because of that, it'll play a role in helping. I think it'll play a major role. The more informed the community is on things and like the realistic potential it has to affect the price, the more realistic our expectation of the team. And because of that, it puts a pressure on you. Because if there's pressure on you and from someone who doesn't quite know what's going on, then you're kind of a little more free to like do what it is that you want to do. But if there's pressure on you from people who know what's going on, then it's like, okay, the more we level up, the more the team has to level up. That's all I'm saying. You guys agree with that, or do you disagree with that? Sir, how much time to wait for $1? Crypto, what is your favorite 3 cryptos at the moment? Evergrow, XUSD, and yeah, I'm so divided on Safemoon right now. It sucks. I am just so divided on Safemoon. And we'll talk about that, even though a lot of people don't want to hear about that. I don't care. I'm a Safemoon holder. People don't want me to talk about it. Don't listen to me. I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic towards Safemoon. I'm just being realistic, and what I consider to be realistic, I'm open to being wrong as well. But there's some actually really interesting and important things to discuss regarding Safemoon. Ooh, that's a new thing. They added hashtags and how much? That's interesting. Sorry, guys, I'm just setting up the thing. No, not that one. Guy here late. What's up? What's up, Christian? Just having a discussion on the psychology of Safemoon. I'm almost done setting it up, and then I'll be going to you guys, writing down your guys' ideas, your answers. Hey, folks, if I want to give Safemoon to somebody to and from a Safemoon wallet, will there be a tax? Yeah, there's a 2% tax on transfers. It used to be 10%, but they lowered it. All right, that's good enough. Hey, what's up, DS, in the chat? How's it going? All right, let me put the screen on. Let me put my little drawing screen. Isn't that an awesome thumbnail? You don't even know what this video is about, but you're like, man, that thumbnail, you just got to click that one. That's how I feel about it. Maybe other people don't. All right, let me get this pulled up. Do you know any crypto project that has actually developed and deploy a real money-making utility? Thank you, Saltwater. We're going to be talking about that as well. Extremely important, like, topics for discussion. You know what I mean? Somehow this got X'd out of. That's very unfortunate. But let me ask you guys this. Anybody who's listening, when Safemoon was designed, what was the psychology or intent that went into the structure of what Safemoon was? What do you guys think it was? Gotta get this to the right size. No, I need that to be all the way out. Okay, that's good enough. What's going on? Why you feel divided? Oh, why do I feel divided? Yeah, I'll talk about that too. But I mean, it's really interesting. I've been having conversations with people who are really smart and talking about utilities, reflections, passive income, DeFi. What's the purpose of DeFi? How much should a team pay themselves? And I think these are the kind of conversations that can really bring perspective to investors and affect the mentality that we have, especially how we go about our investments. Because here's the thing: is in DeFi, is like we're all in this. You might be in this because you have a love for decentralization and a hatred for like centralization, especially the corruption that rules centralization. But beyond that, I think most people are in DeFi because we want to make money. So we all know that we're just trying to kind of keep an eye out for the next big thing that's coming to DeFi. And a lot of the times it's the new idea that doesn't get the attention, it doesn't get the love until it's too late, right? And by too late, I meant we missed our chance because we didn't see any value in it. Just like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin used to be worth like nothing and people were mining it. And now it's like, you know, it's 30K, 60K a coin. It's insane. So because of what it is and because of what people realized it was, but it takes a while. And I'm not saying I know everything. So if I say something wrong, definitely correct me. But it takes a while for everybody to realize like, oh, that thing is very valuable because most people's attention is elsewhere. So should I send them BSBNB and just swap it? Sorry, but I don't know. I meant, yeah. If you wanted to, you could just send them the BNB and they could buy the themselves. I whenever I'm trying to make it easier for people, I like my one of my dads. I'm like, here, I'll just buy it for you and send it to you. But there was an extra fee for it, but it's whatever. That's the wrong one. That's the one I don't like. Oh, I can just pull that right there. Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. These are meant for artists, but I use them for my terrible handwriting videos. That's a little big. Let me make that smaller. Let me read through your chats real quick. Seeing is isking a long-term hold. Lucky77. What's going on? Why you feel divided? So I'm divided because of all the information that came out about everything that's happened with Safemoon. I'm divided for a lot of reasons, but I think we'll get into that when we ask what was the purpose of Safemoon. I just kind of want to hear your guys' answers to that. Like when they went to design Safemoon and they made it, which is a really good question. And I know a lot of people might not, they just don't like me taking an honest approach to this information. But it's the same approach that we hold other people to. If any of you guys was going to go make a token, everybody'd be like, well, what's the utility? What's the reason for it? What's the purpose? Why are you making another token? They get that way, get very offensive with you. And they're great questions to ask. You just have to hold that standard across the board. And I'm just kind of curious, your guys' answer in the chat. If you guys had to answer this question, what do you think the purpose of Safemoon was when it started? Like when they designed it, what were they thinking about? I invested in Safemoon in December, missed lots of FUD. Oh yeah, you missed a crap ton of FUD. I mean, you're still here for quite a lot, but yeah. Yo fam, what's up, Victor? How's it going? To collaborate with Financial Prosperity of the World. What? No. That didn't even exist then. I had a conversation with a smart person too. They told me I was an idiot. Innovation? Okay, how was it innovation? I'm just curious. I missed the Bitcoin ride, got in Doge very early, but sold early and it blew off. I'm not going to miss the Safemoon opportunity. It's an all or nothing for me. Okay, Giorgio, yeah. So I think the thing is like, we want to be early on the big things. So Safemoon isn't Safemoon from the beginning. Hate to use this word, but it's evolving. No. We're going to go into that, Art. We're definitely going to go into that. But we're just starting with how did it start, and then we'll go into where it's at from now. Because like these are great questions to ask, even though they might not be the most fun. Rewarding for holding and financial freedom. Safemoon isn't okay. So here's my thinking, because if any of you guys go to start your own token, is anybody in here thinking of starting their own token? This is what you're going to be coming up with. Is how much are you thinking of, you getting rich, and how much are you thinking of making something that's actually different, that actually impacts people's life? When Safemoon started, all it had was a 10% fee, and it was 5% reflections and 5% LP. Which was a cool idea, but it was taken from the B token, and it was done by Kyle Nagy. Now, kind of the question of the psychology of the start of something so huge, something that, so many people are a part of, is some guy who designed this, who basically copied a contract. And we'll get to what it's become, but we're just going over its origins. This is Safemoon's origins right now, right? Which is insane to think about, right? How big Safemoon is and how it started as some guy named Kyle going, hey, I'm gonna copy this B token contract. It started as a scam coin to make money. Let's be serious. Thank you, Golden State. I appreciate you saying that. Jam says, the first wallet launch was a red flag for me. They hyped it and even had a countdown timer, and there wasn't even a wallet being developed, but I've got some Safemoon and might as well hold it. My intention is not to FUD Safemoon right now. It's just to talk about what is actually going on with Safemoon. So was Safemoon designed as a rug? I don't know. I think a lot of people would say that Kyle Nagy probably designed Safemoon as a rug pull. He had the other token called "Give Me Your Money" token. Or maybe he didn't design it as, well, no, he designed it as a rug. He literally took LP money out. There's literally him using the function, remove liquidity from the Safemoon LP, which is what was probably used to pay Thomas whenever Kyle gave Thomas $1 million or something. Was it $1 million or $2 million? I don't remember. These are not fun subjects, right? It's all in the past, man. Why are you talking about that? Oh, because I'm allowed to talk about anything I want to talk about. And I think that having an understanding is good to progress. Every company starts with a purpose, but evolves after the fact. Ray Kroc just had burgers and fries, then new products came along, and then drive-through, and on and on. Yeah, I'm not. We're not. You don't have to get. We don't have to get all defensive, guys. I'm just talking about how did it start. I'm not saying it's a rug pull and everybody needs to sell. I believe John had the vision of this token, tried to implement with the team that he had and the time, but couldn't really get it off due to the issues around the scam. Got to be good reason for people to invest. For so many people, it had really strong jumpstart because of influencers. They got money for fast, innovative developments, which take time. Okay, so then let me ask you guys this then. And let's see your guys' answers to this. Gotta be good read. Okay, the past is relevant. I think so too, Golden State of Mind. It's like the people that don't want you to look at history are the ones that are about to, make the mistakes by not looking at history. There's a better quote about that, but it was just a crypto with a big community. But why did Safemoon blow up? What do you guys feel about that? Just on it. We're not trying to FUD. We're not trying to overhype. We're just trying to say, why did Safemoon actually blow up? What was the cause? Or what do you guys think was the cause? Maybe there's something I don't know. I'm open to new information. To me, like, the most honest approach to information is that you don't know everything and that you have to be willing to be wrong. If you don't have that approach to information, you probably have a bunch of beliefs that are wrong. It caught people's eye with rewards. I think it did start as a rug, but with a massive success and holder count, John seen future potential. So the story kind of goes that Kyle started it. Celebrities pumped it. Thank you. I was kind of waiting for that answer. Jake Paul and Lil Naughty or something, Ben Phillips, and other celebrities pumped Safemoon. And I think that it's a combination of the 10% tokenomics. That it was this cool idea, like, hey, after you buy and hold, you're getting more Safemoon, and also the price is safe. Like, this is what's going on in our minds, and you guys tell me if you felt differently. But especially for a lot of people that were new, which is what Safemoon did, is bring in a lot of new investors. Was like, hey, you're getting reflection, so you're going to gain the token just by holding it, and 5% of these tax that everybody's paying is going towards the liquidity pool, and that's going to help stabilize the price. And beyond that, the liquidity pool is locked. In my mind, celebrities, the reflections, the passive income, the locked LP, and maybe just what's the name. And I don't really know how to phrase this, but the symbol. I think all these things played a role. It was the first coin with tokenomics. That's not true. There was already coins like that before Safemoon. Safemoon just made it big. Reflections big. Wow, good question. I believe because was great word of mouth, and the idea behind the tax system sounded like a great idea. 2021 was a year of crypto. A bunch blew up, plus the FOMO. Celebs did pump, but are those who follow this influencer still own Safemoon? So that's a bit slippery. Not really, especially when you look at Jake Paul. Jake Paul is not a small deal. I mean, he's one of the most famous people on the planet. Next to Logan Paul. The ideology of GME and AMC is to hold, so Safemoon ran with the idea that the token to hold and get rich. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Golden. Brune88, what's up, man? So is Safemoon going away now? I should brace myself for another Luna. No, I don't think Safemoon's going away. That's not what we're talking about. If I thought Safemoon was going away, I would just tell you and then stop talking about Safemoon. Other people do, but I don't personally think it is. They created Safemoon Army. Would have been a shame to destroy community rug pulling it. It's very hard to get so many eyes on a project. This guy is such a loser. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. The psychology of Safemoon is so interesting, from like how it started to what it became to in the mindset of investors. Let me ask you guys this. What is actually going to, like, do you actually understand what will actually raise the price for Safemoon? It was designed for a pump and dump from the first developers. I believe so as well. Yeah, I think Kyle designed it as like, hey, if we get it to do well, we can pull out money and I can rug pull it and get away with the money, right? But I think the story goes that it started to get too big. So Kyle brought on the people that he was working with over at Tano, which Tano was like this gaming company that he founded with John and Thomas. And so they were already like somewhat loosely working together somehow. And then Thomas got brought on, and then Thomas makes the claim that because he was working for John, that John kind of forced his way into Safemoon, but clearly they would have had to agree to that. So maybe there's this somewhat of like John saying like, hey, you work for me, so you have to bring me on, or maybe he felt pressured or whatever. But I think no matter what came down to it, Thomas had to agree to it, and Kyle had to agree to it to bring John on. And then John basically had full control of Safemoon. And it could have been that because nobody wanted that role, John took it on. And clearly Kyle didn't want that role. I don't think Thomas wanted that role. But then what happened and what we see in the future of in the history of Safemoon for everybody that was there was they had different ideas for what Safemoon should be. I mean, if you go watch the old AMAs, we see that they seemed like they were having a good time, but ultimately John was running the show, which means that, and this is a big deal, that every decision financially and utility-wise is being made by John. Utility and volume will raise the price. Exactly. It's got too big for them become out of control. Glad that didn't happen. See, it evolved already from rug to no rug. We can all agree we got lucky that John kept Safemoon together. Well, that's another thing that's up for debate. If money was taken out of, it's like if you guys make a token and you only take $5 from the LP, is that considered a rug? And like, no, it's not really considered a rug unless you take it all. Well, if you're taking from what was meant for them, then it is being rugged. Was Safemoon rugged? I believe it was by Safemoon Dev. And I believe that other funds weren't as clearly, other funds that would have really helped the project was not going towards the project like it should have been. We can all agree we got lucky that John kept Safemoon together. High market cap, more money in the liquidity pool, rewarding, incentivizing, holding will raise the price. Here's another thing, guys. And I talked about this last time is, with Safemoon or with any investment, we have like this build up, right? And then we have this like massive launch. And if you go up that much, you're going to come back down. And, we came back down. And it was like all these people that paid like nothing. Like Kyle paid like, I figure like $300 or $500 for just like a ton of tokens. But then he also pulled tokens from the LP. But these whales, like to me, like whales are a problem. A major problem, and I talked about this in my last stream, because whales have the project by the balls, right? They can sell, and by selling, they can drastically decrease the price and cause others to sell, and therefore the hype and the attention that was coming into the project because the price was going up and because that was what was attracting investors can be taken away by the early investors who have the most tokens, or by the team itself if it's part of, if you're in a rug pool. And to me, like, this is something that we really have to look at as investors. I'm not here to do what a lot of people want me to do. Tell you that everything's amazing, that everything's going to be perfect, and that any piece of news is good news and any piece of bad news isn't true. Like, that's just, I'm not going to do, that's just deceitful. That's not going to help the project. The more honest we are with information and ideas, the more ability we have to actually influence it in the right direction. It's really that simple. It's like if you're building, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build this like metaphorical, rocket ship to the moon. And do we want to just haphazardly throw stuff together and be like, yeah, throw that on. We're going to the moon. What is that? Yep, put it on there. That's going to be great. Everything's great. No, you would be like, if we all had to seriously build a rocket ship, we'd be very serious. There wouldn't be room for speculating about how amazing this piece might be. We'd be trying to look into it to make sure that it doesn't fail so that the ship doesn't explode so that we don't die. And I think that even though this is just an investment, that we should still take that same approach. I mean, we should still be very critical of the information that we're looking at. Each utility that comes through, each idea, whether it's wind turbines or the Gambia or the exchange, that to get a real idea of like, how is this actually going to impact the price? Why Safemoon? Exactly. Whatever happened to Safemoon Whale YouTuber? Safemoon Whale left whenever Thomas was quitting because he found out that like they all were quitting and that Thomas was pretending to be on the team, and he had a very large position, so he dipped out. And then he went and made a video and moved to like a different country so that he could avoid the taxes or something like that. Like, there's a video you can go watch that has Safemoon Whale on it. But the problem with whales is like they already have this problem. And here's something that we still have this problem, guys. If the price starts to go up, these whales who already have dominance over the price, and I know we talk about a decreasing in the whale dominance, and that is true. They have been selling quite a lot. But at the same time, if the volume and the price starts to go up, we have a lot of every holder that's above us is going to have a lot, and they're going to be getting a ton in reflections. And it's like reflections, this cool idea that was meant to get people to buy in, actually amplified the problem that causes projects to not do well. And this is just my opinion. If you think that reflections don't do that, you can definitely provide a counter argument. But I watched it, over that time, that the past year, I've been a Safemoon YouTuber. I'm here with you guys. I've been paying attention. And, they'd announce the blockchain or something, and the whales would keep selling. And I'd be like, man, did you guys not see the AMA? Like, why are they selling? They just said the blockchain's coming out. And then I went and bought some Safemoon because I'm like, I can't miss the exchange and the blockchain by the end of last year. So I bought because of that. I'm sure a lot of other people did too. And I'm not saying positive or negative anything about Safemoon. I'm just talking about what has happened and why it happened. So when people get upset, they're just upset by reality and upset for me for talking about it. But here's a serious issue, because whenever I talk about the psychology of if you went to go design a token, what is your intent and purpose behind making this token? And we know that Safemoon started basically as a rug, meaning that it's the last thing that you would want to go into a project was that somebody was putting themselves first above everybody else. They're like, everybody who gets into this, screw them, and I'm just trying to steal thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of people's money for myself, right? If you design a project that way, that's what you're thinking. Now, it could be a lot less malicious. You could just be saying like, oh yeah, I want to make a cool project, and you are just giving yourself a huge bag, or you're giving yourself rewards, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to get yours than it is for everybody else to get theirs. So you could design a project and not necessarily even be a rug pull, but enough people buy into it that you can make a lot of money, right? This is not the kind of tokens we want to be buying in on. This is not the purpose of decentralized finance. This is pyramid schemes. If we don't have real utility, we are just creating pyramid schemes, right? And I know that people say, well, Safemoon's changed and all that, and we can talk about that, but read your comments for a second. The real question is John competent enough to take this project during a down market into something 5 years from now? Brune88 says, no, it's supposed to be a moon. Yes, Dave. No, I get great information from Crypto Control. Keep doing what you do, even though people hate it. There are those like me that, oh yeah, I'm not going to stop. I don't care if my subscribers go down, my views go down, people hate me. I'm like, you guys can't stop me. I'm going to tell the truth about SafeMoon until it moons or until it dies out. Like, I'll be here. Unless life just calls me like desperately in a different direction, I will always have time to make videos and talk about SafeMoon. SafeMoon whale was already in Puerto Rico? Okay, maybe I misunderstood that story. Maybe there will be another strong dump. I think SafeMoon not defending themselves for a reason. They're trying to shake off old whales. Also, I cannot imagine that most of the people who started SafeMoon didn't know that it was a rug pull. Okay, this is a great RDM. This is great. These are the conversations that people are not allowed to have, right? Papa took $1 million worth of SafeMoon, yet didn't think nothing was going on. I meant, if you're to talk about that, if Kyle actually designed SafeMoon as a rug pull, I would imagine he's friends with Thomas. Like, him and Thomas are best friends. And he gave him $1 million. I mean, what kind of friend gives you $1 million? I've never had one friend do that. And if he had millions of dollars, I don't know if he would, right? You gotta be pretty good friends for someone to be like, hey man, here's $1 million. And Kyle and John, they were all intimately working together. And it is kind of weird to say like, okay, and it's definitely possible, but it is weird to think like, okay, John didn't know that Kyle took from the LP, and Thomas didn't know that Kyle took from the LP, even though it was their project. Like, how did they not know that that is what happened, that that's where Thomas's money came from? And even when SafeMoon Dev was selling off after that period of time where Thomas quit and we were watching his wallets just keep dumping on the charts, John did comment on SafeMoon Dev selling and said it's his money. He paid for those tokens, which was the, I think was it the deployer wallet? Is that his wallet on the V1? I don't remember. I bought SafeMoon because of you. Now SafeMoon is like my gaming channel. Kyle bought himself a first class ticket to hell. The team was filled with imposters. Now they are gone. I like how John carefully hiring people. Neo Sar. So yeah, that's kind of, and you're welcome. You guys are welcome to have whatever belief system you want without attacking each other. We have to mature. We have to grow up in this space and allow people to have different beliefs without thinking we're better than them. It's okay for somebody to not like SafeMoon. It's okay for somebody to not believe in SafeMoon. It doesn't mean that suddenly they are more of an evil person than you because they don't agree that what SafeMoon is a good thing. Even if you take that into politics or religion, if you disagree on Joe Biden or Donald Trump, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than that person who has the opposing beliefs of you. And it's extremely important for people to stop doing that. I think the problem is that the people who do believe in something that is actually wrong, they can't defend their ideas by logic, so they kind of have to resort to thinking that they're better than you and being illogical. It's not guaranteed, but it's more so found on the side of people who have beliefs that aren't based in fact, is that they're more likely to attack you and hate you. Carl Loggins, dude, I forgot I made you a moderator. I bought SafeMoon beachside, I believe, because I believed. I was like, man, you bought it on a beach? Damn, dude, you were already chilling. Whoever rugs it can go to jail. What about something you deemed stable at first and decentralized like XLM Stellar, but now are having meetings with globalists at Davos? I lost trust in the YouTubers who hyped SafeMoon. I bought at certain points due to the hype. Rookie mistake. I prefer looking at the facts based on their actions. Well, I think we all bought into the hype, you know? They said things were happening. They said I still believe in the exchange. You know what I mean? I think they are actually making an exchange. So I don't know. That's why I don't tell people to sell or to buy, because I don't know what's going to happen. Victor SafeMoon Army says, yes, whales have killed many projects, but duping all their tokens. I've been in many projects that couldn't survive. Money buggy? Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that way, money. More than one year, my mom told me I was better than everyone. Oh, okay. I didn't know your mom said that, yeah. That's my bad then, bro. The problem with Safemoon is involved so many hype merchants. So many wanted to turn their 17 to 8 million. Papa clearly is deceptive, and Phillips needs authorities on his ass. Crypto control, you can say whatever you want to say. Elon Musk fighting for freedom of speech for this reason. Oh, 100%. Like, I have no problem speaking the truth, whether it's Safemoon or Jesus or just in general, because I'm willing to admit that I am a flawed person who does evil things as well, who is no better than anybody else, who might be wrong about everything. And that's a very strong position to help you guide you into like beliefs that are right, because I approach every idea with the perspective that I might be wrong. And so many people approach ideas with the perspective that they cannot be wrong. And when people are wrong and they believe that they cannot be, then the problem is that they have to actually question themselves to realize that they could be wrong. So, I mean, this is something that, like, even if the price goes up, guys, because one of the big things that's selling us is that passive income, these reflections are going to be really huge one day once the price goes up. And you know what, they might be, but how sustainable is it going to be? And if you look at it, the whales have this dominance to not just have a huge bag that they can sell, but to be getting the most reflections out of everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, not only do they have the biggest bags, but they're going to be getting the most reflections. It's like increasing their dominance. Now, you could say that it's equally increasing everybody at the rate at which they own the tokens, but what that means is that the people who have the most power are being given more power because they have more power. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, Generation Crypto? How's it going, man? Thanks for stopping by. Love your content. I love you as a person, man. Generation Crypto's a great guy. CC, what you think of the current Safemoon team? Well, here's the thing is, like, I don't know. The thing is, like, John's in control. Like, no matter who he hires, he can just fire them if he disagrees with them and doesn't like their ideas or approach to the project. Them using whale sells to someone steal from the Safemoon community. When the whales sell out and then buy back at a loss, somehow they're using the reflections to hide their money laundering. Kyle and Papa are no longer with us because John Crony recognized that what they were not working out in Safemoon project. I'm sure John appreciated Papa. John is business oriented, not buddy oriented. So everybody says that, like, John cleaned house with Thomas, but that's not true. Like, guys, why did Thomas quit? Was it because John fired him, or is it because he wanted to leave? Hey, what's up, Wild Boy Crypto? How's it going, bro? I see where you're coming from. I just see so many green flags right now about Safemoon. Old Safemoon was sketchy. No, I'm not trying to say that it might not moon. Like, that's what I tell people is, like, I'm not telling you to buy or sell because it's a gamble either way. Everything could look really bad and the price could go up. So I really don't want to try to influence you to sell your bag or to buy your bag. I just want to talk about what has actually happened and what is actually happening and what could actually happen without any extra hype or any extra negativity added to it that would be dishonest. Love you too. Yeah, guys, make sure to check out Generation Crypto's content. He's actually a lot smarter than me. A lot of the other YouTubers are a lot smarter than me. Have a lot more knowledge than me. I'm writing this damn thing to the bottom or the top. Yeah, me too, Carl. I definitely am as well. How many whales are actually left? I'll expect very few. Thomas probably did his part, in my opinion. Okay, let me ask you guys another question then. This is probably, if I put this question on Twitter, people would like, well, people already hate me, but this one would make people lose their minds. Let me see how you guys answer this question. Actually, let me rephrase this. I could probably word this better instead of writing out. But when it comes to John's actions and thoughts, I'm sure a lot of people, it's okay if your answer, it's okay to have different beliefs, guys. This is a completely open to have different, just don't attack each other and don't attack me. You can attack me, but I appreciate it if you don't, and we'll just ban you if you become too disrespectful. But is John when John is making decisions about Safemoon and deciding like who do we hire, who do we fire, deciding what utilities, when we pursue this utility, is this actually going to affect investors and the price of Safemoon, which is what they want? And probably most importantly is when he's deciding what is being done with money that they have gained from investors. Do you guys believe that he is putting the Safemoon army over himself in the way that he spends his money? Oh man, just the flames and torches and pitchforks. Like, people would just want to crucify me at the stake if I asked this on Twitter, which I don't really care. It's a normal question. It's a regular question, right? Not a big deal. If you believe he is, you shouldn't be offended by this question. Yeah, roll the dice or don't. That's how I feel, Carl. It's gambling anyway, so no, he's putting himself over the investors, Mad Scientist feels. Art M says, I don't know, John, have nothing against him, but people proclaiming him to be the second coming of Steve Jobs when the project is nowhere near completion. How about he finishes the project, then we praise? Money Buggy feels like yes. Okay. And it's okay if you guys have different beliefs. Just tweet it, F it. Well, I'm trying not to piss people off. Like, my goal is not like, let me see how angry I can make everybody. My goal is just like, let me try to reason with people for a good purpose. And that usually angers them. I think John is enjoying the ride. I don't think he's putting the investors first. Okay. That is what we are made to believe. I can only hope he thinks that way. If not, we are screwed. Yeah, I would hope John is. Oh, well, he got his legacy on the line, so he better. I hope he is, but what happened to Operation Gambia? He could have left. Okay, so, man, a lot of you guys. Is anybody in here that feels like John has got, when he spends money, it's with us in mind? You know what I mean? Because I wrote this last time, but all this is like us putting a ton of money, a bunch of people putting a ton of money into like a pot, and that provides the team, they got to spend money to make money, otherwise they have nothing to work with, right? So I'm totally open to that. I'm totally open to them paying themselves, sort of. And then the team has to take that money, you make it a real utility, and then use the profit, right, to go back to all these massive investors that funded it. Yeah, I'm not going to tweet that. There's not really a reason to. You like his suits? Oh, gosh. There's a lot of negative perspectives on John. If you tweet, you will be blocked by Safemoon official Twitter, like me and others. I haven't gotten blocked by them yet. Very interesting. I honestly wonder how John feels about me. I wouldn't think it was positive, but maybe he's like, yeah, he's got a good point, you know, but he just can't say it. John writes checks his ass can't cash. He doesn't think about the price. He has said that before. Mr. Fudd back again. What's up, MM Khan? How you doing, man? You're welcome to express your opinions and thoughts here. I'll be honest with you guys, I get sick of it. I get sick of the unrealistic hype. I can't listen to it. It bothers me to hear it. If it's realistic, if it's like, okay, this is what could actually do something, then I'm like, yeah, let's get on board. But just hearing anything positive and like, this could be the moon, guys. And in that, like, I'm like, oh gosh, I like have to pull out of that space. It's okay if other people, you know, are into that. And I've done that in the past. I've thought like, hey, the exchange and the blockchain, this is going to cause us to moon. But here's the thing about this. The reason this is on my mind so heavily is because I'm trying to think of my own project. And clearly, like, if any of you guys went to go make your own project, you know, the Free Gender project or Art M project or Doo Doo Gaming project, Brune88 project, Imcon project, you would be facing yourself with, do you actually have an idea that's good for any, does it solve any problems in the space, or are you just trying to make money because you're able to make more than everybody else? If you make your own project, you can immediately give yourself a private bag that either gets the most rewards, or you can sell your bag because you're in the pre-sale, or you could just give yourself a marketing fee, like, hey guys, 2% marketing, that's part of the tax, and I want to pay ourselves. So it's like, when people go about to design DeFi, I think 90-something% of the time it goes against almost what the purpose of DeFi is. Because the purpose of DeFi is to take like power out of a small group of people and give it to the whole. And when you create a crypto project where 1, 2, 3, 4 people, a very small team, control the future and get the most for creating that thing of the project, then it's like, this goes against what the entire purpose of this is. So when I started thinking, I'm like, how about reflections and how they magnify whales? They make whales even stronger than they would be in a different token. Because if a whale in a different token that doesn't have tokenomics, they still have a huge bag, but it's not growing unless they buy. But with Safemoon, their position is already huge, and they're getting rewards, but they're getting more rewards than everybody else underneath them. So it's just like this amplified problem. And I don't know, to me, like, that's just something realistic that we have to look at when we look at the future of Safemoon. If the exchange or the blockchain do somehow, I don't know, cryptonomics, if they do actually create something useful. That's why I say if they do, because I don't know what it is. I need to see, how is cryptonomics going to work in order for me to see, okay, how realistic is that? Are people really going to want to hold there? Is there going to be enough volume for people to actually want to hold their token there, or is it better just to stake it? I mean, those are the kind of topics that we have to like really break down. And I'm not saying I know everything. If somebody wants to paint for me a very realistic picture of something that's going to create a ton of price action and a ton of volume, their statement could still be very beneficial, especially even with low holders. But if you look at it, if it's designed as passive income, it's only passive income if we're selling. And if everybody's selling, then what is that going to do to the charts? There has to be an extremely high source of outside profit coming back into the project, or a lot of people just have to be holding while others are selling. You know what I mean? We can't all have passive income, because then everybody's selling. No, I want anyone who invested in me to become successful. Yeah, absolutely. The right thing to do is to give back to the investors and use legitimate profits to pay himself a fair wage. Most business owners pay their people first and pay themselves after profits. Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, what is the most honest approach for us if we make, and I love this kind of thinking. For you individually, with your own project that you make, what is the most honest approach? Because this is what I've been thinking about. And after talking to Mark, DeFi Mark, yesterday, people don't realize what kind of person he is. I realized that I'm like, you know what? I can't pay myself. If I do this project, I cannot pay myself. I can't give myself anything extra than anybody else. It's not fair. So I made that decision yesterday. I'm like, you know what? If we launch this, which it's a really cool idea, and we might be doing it pretty soon, actually. But if I do it, I need to be on the same level as everybody else. And you know what that does is it puts, okay, now I'm actually designing this for you guys, because I'm not giving myself an unfair advantage over you guys. The hardest part is utility, because like all utility is someone's money saying, hey, I'm going to give it to the whole project. That's all it is somebody making money and giving it to the project instead. The idea is to try to give it to a team that creates something, that used our money to create something useful, that has promised and dedicated themselves to using that profit to give it back to us, so that we all are part of this ecosystem, and we, it's like funding their project that did well, and we are rewarded for it. Generation Crypto, over 100 people watching and only 40 likes. Yeah, guys, hit the like button. I really appreciate that. Mark is a great guy. He's a genius. What if Reflections was paid out based on position of entry? CC, you'll like this. Position of entry? What do you mean by that, Wild Boy Crypto? Maybe you could elaborate on that. I think I might not be understanding fully what you're saying. utilities will bring money to the project. Well, it's also like how much money are they dedicating to? Because if you make a utility, you could just say, okay, we'll give 2% back to the project. You know, like how much of the profit do you guys think should be dedicated back to your project that funded your ability to do that utility? I'm talking about profit after paying for all the expenses and for everything to, paying everybody who's a part of it, the profit. I have 15,000. I had 15,500, and then I talked about John's wallets. So now I have 15,200. I lost about 200 or 300 subs. Which I don't care. Subs unfortunately don't really do anything. It just feels cool to have a lot of subs. Why are you going to give us some? When are you going to give us some details, bro? Oh yeah, if we do it, it'll be when it launches. Tokenomics is the same as stocks that pay dividends, except dividends are only paid when mature companies versus tokenomics. The person who got in early will receive the most dividends later. Great utility and anti-rugging mechanism. Get on a good blockchain. CC, just don't put Chatterbrine or filet mignon in your stomach every day. I don't know what Chatterbrine is or whatever. And filet mignon, I don't even know if I've ever had that. I just get Texas Roadhouse, the 6-ounce sirloin, bro. With some A1 sauce. Whales will sell, but our question is, will the whales enter again and repeat? Well, whales only had to sell their reflections because they're getting so much reflections. All they had to do was keep selling their reflections. 10% keep it biblical. Yeah. I mean, first ones, higher payouts than empty out their bags. Have an investor wallet. The hardest part is adding enough money to the LP. If the LP is low, then the buyer price impact will be high. Start with an LP of 5K. Okay, so when I talk about the psychology of what started Safemoon, where it's at now, and where is it going, to me, it's really interesting and how investors today approach their investment and how it affects how they approach other investments. And when I get into the heart of this, it's like, when I talked about how, Bitcoin was a huge thing in it, and I could be wrong, guys. So don't take everything I'm saying as like fact. Question me and question my ideas. But this is how I see it. This Bitcoin, huge thing. People didn't see it for its value. People were paying attention to other things, right? Bitcoin exploded because it has value. Ethereum exploded because of smart contracts. Binance exploded because it's cheaper gas fees. So it's like paying attention to, there's people out there who are actually paying attention to how they design smart contracts for the people using, and they're taking it to the next level. It's like technology. When we started with, we had to start with like these giant ass computers that filled up an entire room. And now we had to that was part of the process in order to work through to get to the point where we are today, where we have a mega supercomputer within the palm of our hands. Especially, and then the internet, you look at the same thing, they have to evolve over time. And there are people who are approaching the entire structure design of the token, of the contract, from a completely decentralized approach to see what can we actually do with this, and who should we put first? Should we put ourselves first and pay ourselves the most and give ourselves the most control over everything, or should we put the whole of everybody who chooses to be in this first? And there's room for discussion here. If a team has a real utility, then yeah, I think they should be getting paid better than, probably most of their investors, because they're actually providing profits to their investors who invested in them. But with DeFi, it's so any one of you guys can go start a project, rug pull it, start a project, promise amazing things. It failed, but you gave yourself a great position, so you made more than everybody who bought in your project. Have they put in the second LP amount into V2? No, I think they said a third was moved over, so there's 2/3 left in the V1 LP that needs to be migrated to the V2. But when they migrate it, they're not actually migrating the LP. They're splitting the Safemoon from the BNB, using the BNB for a buy, and then taking the Safemoon and doing, we don't know what they're doing with that Safemoon. But we're not getting the liquidity that LP was meant for. We're not getting that. We're just getting a buy on the charts that usually gets eaten up pretty quick by a whale or something, which does decrease whale dominance, but there's people who are actually focusing on contracts and what they can do and taking DeFi to the next level. And in my mind as an investor, This is what we need to be paying attention to. And I'll be honest with you guys. I think it's Mark. As of right, I'm sure there's lots of other people out there that are actually innovating and doing very interesting things, because contracts are such an interesting thing to see, like what you can do. And my entire approach to my contract, of what I thought of, is the psychology of investors, of the whale problem. Like when I approached, it's so funny to see people talk trash to me. But whenever I approached my idea, it was like, what is the problem? Because I'm not just making a token to just get rich. What's the problem? What's the problem that I see with every token, and how do you solve it? And how do you solve it in a realistic way? And I personally feel that I've come to a solution. But this was, whenever I went to think of a project, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to rug these people. I didn't think, oh, I can just give myself an easy position and become rich off of everybody. I mean, I did think, well, I'm creating the project, so I should give myself, a good position, because I thought of the whole project. And I don't really quite think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the most honest approach, after talking to Mark, because Mark told me, and I don't think he'll be bothered by saying this, but he says that Mark's number one rule is they don't take investors' money, like at all. Like you don't give yourself a position. Like the only money they make is from doing actual work of making contracts or giving services. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. If I do this, I can't give myself a good big position. I can't use marketing to pay myself. I have to just buy like everybody else. And now I'm approaching this with the mindset of everybody who buys, right? But not just everybody who buys, because we're also buying early in on this project. I also have to think about the people who get in later, whenever the price is much more bigger and the cost of tokens has gone up a lot more. Is there a way to incentivize people getting in later? It's like there's an entire approach to constructing, which all we're really talking about is a distribution of money that we're all putting in a pot together. And I personally think, like, obviously the number one thing with any token is utility. Like, there has to be something that's generating money, an outside source that isn't just people putting money in a pot and only certain people making profits. Utility generating profit that is feeding back into the LP, that feeds all investors as buys and burn the token. Especially with a deflationary token, you buy it, you burn those tokens. It's awesome, right? If they put the LP from V1 into V2 in one go, it would be gone within an hour by whales. Bit by bit is the way to do it. I definitely agree that if you're doing that, you should do that slowly over time. There is never enough filet mignon. We are investing in tech here. Yeah, so like, what is the tech? I'm definitely open to it. I mean, obviously, it would come down to cryptonomics and the wind turbines. But we can't just, because we want to be rich, assume that those things are going to be amazing. We have to actually break down those ideas to figure out, is this actually going to be something that's useful, that actually produces profits on a scale big enough to compensate for all the investors that are a part of the project right now? At least enough to provide passive income, or to work your way through a bunch of the whales so that we can work our way up towards becoming, higher tiers. Safemoon doesn't block you, maybe because in order to improve you need critics. Adam was one of them, but he gave up on Safemoon. Yeah, he did. Lunch over. Peace. All right, money. Catch you later, man. Be like the stock market and F everybody else. You get 51% of the supply. Everybody else gets 49%. Okay, now, yeah. That's what I'm waiting for. They will inject liquidity when there is a big dump. Maybe a special airdrop every 6 months, as long as you had held the token for 6 months. Okay. I don't want to give away my ideas, but they're not super hard to think of, but they're pretty unique, and everybody I've told about them is like, that's a really cool idea. But ultimately, I need the one piece of thing I'm missing is a serious utility generating profit. And all that is something that I would have to like be making money and saying, okay, I'm giving this to the project. You know what I mean? And whether it's me getting together with people to create something, or whether it's me just doing something on my own, it's basically just going to be like me dedicating myself to whatever I make here, it goes to the project. It's me giving my money away, depending on what your utility is. I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I have a great idea for a rewards token, but we need We need an investment from you guys for this, and then we'll agree to pay so much percentage of what we create back into the project. And for me, I did think about that. I'll tell you guys a little bit about one of my ideas, which is that, part of me doesn't want to give these away because I really like these ideas, and I haven't really seen them. So I'm sorry. I don't want to say that either. Yeah, the check is being cheaper than FTX. People will always flock the cheapest gas fees, cheapest of anything they can get their hands on. Yeah, I still don't trust Mark unless he wants to pay me the $3,000 that he stole from me with Search. Yeah, so Safemoon Flat Earther, you're operating your perspective from a false belief. Like, he didn't steal it, it was hacked. So if you realize that, would that change your perspective? The fact that he stuck around and is choosing to pay people back, does that change your perspective? A lot of people that have some influence in this space are encouraging hate and division and superiority, and they encourage that in other people, and it becomes like what a lot of people like to call it, an echo chamber. I encourage you to question your ideas and think for yourself. And I hate to go on this, but it's so important to life, is does everybody that's listening to me, do you think that everything that you believe is true? Well, it kind of creates a problem, right? Because you wouldn't believe it if you didn't think it was true. But I think that if you're honest with yourself, you'd say, well, probably not. Do you think that you've got it right while everybody else in the world has it wrong? And even further than that, do you think there's any two people that will agree on every single idea? I don't think there's two people on the entire planet that will agree on every single idea. They might be really close, but when it comes down to something, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. So how do you know if what you believe is true? And we see the world contradicting each other. We see all of humanity having all these different beliefs and contradicting each other, and everyone believes they're right. So what's the best approach to information to have the most truthful perspective? When it comes to crypto, when it comes to Safemoon, when it comes to judging people, when it comes to ideas that you hold to be true about life and yourself and what's important and not important, all of those ideas are extremely important because they are determining how you interact with your life. John, I don't care what you're trying to tell us right now. I'm sitting here drinking beer and just wanted to tell you you're the best. I don't think John's here, but if he happens to be here, then he saw your message. Don't tell me when your idea is loose lip sync show. Just tell me when the pre-sale is. I trust you. Another thing is that, if I do a project, it's going to be fully explained in and it will blow your minds. But it's not because it's partly because of what I've thought of, but a lot because of what Mark has done. Even though he's not a part of this project, but he if I do it, and if he does do it, he will be making the contract. I've had a couple other people want to do it with me as well, but I've been struggling on rewards, or should you do staking rewards? But the entire idea is like, what is the approach to the structure of a contract or a token or a utility? And I think it's extremely important that so many people within the Safemoon community have, and it's okay, I'm not trying to judge you or anything if you do feel this way, but they've adopted the idea that Safemoon is this crazy, innovative technology company. And man, I'm just going to catch so much heat for this, but I'm just trying to be honest. What have we accomplished? And this isn't meant to say like we haven't accomplished anything, but just like, what would you guys say? What have we as Safemoon accomplished? These are the questions that'll get a lot of hate your way just for asking this question. There's nothing wrong with asking this. And it's funny, when I pose it to Safemoon, it becomes FUD. But if you were to pose it to any other project, it's a legitimate question, right? That's why I'm asking. I really like the idea of asking you guys, if you started your own project And this is a question you would ask yourself over the period of a year. What have we accomplished? Now, I'll put out some of the obvious ones right now. Hold on. What am I missing, guys? I'm Davis says LOL sellout. I'm not a sellout, man. Speaking of, what do you think of Algorand? I see him covering that all the time, but I haven't checked it out myself. CC, any future collaborations with anyone? Not at this moment right now. Is there a SEC case going on with Safemoon? I don't think right at this moment, no, but a lot of people have told me that it's coming. Like the SEC is going to be coming, and I've heard different opinions on like, hey, if you're considered a security, then they're coming for you. Then you're in violation of what they've done. And if you're not, then you're not in violation. And it comes down to how much control. Like there's like a list of 4 things or something that determine whether you're a security or not. Which means it's kind of a scary time to launch a token, because if you launch a token and you have control and you made a lot of money, it's possibly that they'll be coming for you. So it's just something to keep in mind. Merch. Come on, guys, help me out. Come on, dude. They still need to start. New start team. You see the quality. You're getting defensive. All I asked you was, what have we accomplished? It's not meant as we haven't accomplished. It doesn't say we've accomplished nothing. It just says, what have we accomplished? Why do people get so defensive? Wallet swap. Come on, guys, help me out. Wallet swap. What else do we got? Merch. I mean, I don't know if I want to put merch on there. That's hilarious. Okay. I feel like I'm missing something. What have we accomplished? The wallet, the swap. Come on, guys. I know I'm missing something, aren't I? Swap. Okay. Yes, it's only a year old, yeah. Well, barely over a year, right? A year and some months. I wish you were this critical of Evergrow. Yeah, I could do the same thing to Evergrow. We have a massive community, which is key, so let them work, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in the future. Merch is not a generation. Don't take that away from me, bro. Don't take that away. Somebody in the chat put that. I had to write that down. New website, massive number of users, exposure. Do we have a blockchain? Okay. See, and people get really defensive, but I didn't say we haven't accomplished anything. All I asked is, what have we accomplished? It's pretty bad price in Safemoon right now, 32. I feel like I'm missing something, but okay. So we've got a wallet and a swap, right? My opinion, holders that hold more than 100 million Safemoon should be excluded from reflections, and I love the idea of using green energy to burn the supply. Yeah, if you try to if you start with smart contracts, as soon as you start trying to take an approach to fix a problem, you almost always create another one. So holders that hold more than 100 million Safemoon should be excluded from reflections. All they have to do is divide that into smaller wallets, or just sell off every time they get to 100, keep selling off. So if you guys ever sit down and try to think of a contract that you feel like solves problems, you're going to find yourself struggling with ideas that create problems in themselves. I'm a big believer of Safemoon. Yeah, the blockchain's not out. The exchange isn't out. It's pretty bad right now, Bridges. I'm a big believer of Safemoon. Cool billboards. Swap and evolve. Don't make me go over swap and evolve again, man. I will. I'll do it real fast. Swap and liquefy. Sold half the Safemoon. Swap and evolve. Sold all of the Safemoon. Then bought half. So it produced an equal outcome. It's like selling half of your money to buy something, and then you have half your money still, and you have half of that thing you bought, or selling all of your money for something and then selling half of that something. You still have half of that something and half of your money. It's just done differently. The only positives about possible positives, because I was actually talking to somebody about this, about lowering the threshold of swap and liquefy to swap and evolve. The lower threshold is it creates like more gas. So I don't know. What about Papa? About blockchain, 600K holders, 1.4. Okay, thank you. Thank you for something. 600K holders, 1.4 million followers. That's an accomplishment in itself. NBK, how did we accomplish that? What do you think was the reason that we got that many holders and followers? No other project grew this fast? Okay. And I'm definitely down to discuss that, yeah. It's more manifesting, talk, or gaslighting. They created a wallet, merch, a website. New Safemoon logo. Oh, man. I'm not trying to roast Safemoon, but it kind of turns into a Safemoon roast when you start asking questions. Sold none of my Safemoon, and it is 1/3 of it. If it makes... I do want to say that I'm holding my Safemoon, guys. I'm still holding it. And if the price went down quite a bit, I might even buy more, but it would have to go down more for me to consider it. Sounds like with lower volume, they're building up to liquidity pool faster so they can steal from it sooner. Oh, gosh. Man, a lot of you guys have a negative perspective of Safemoon. I thought most of you guys were positive, but some of you guys are more negative than me. Cool severance pay. Just ask Kyle and Thomas. Oh, gosh, man, it's a Safemoon roast. Sounds like with lower volume, they're already read that. Ada has only 200,000 users. I've been quiet about this, but now I think I need to say something about this. I think they need to really improve. Okay. What good does having a large number of holders help my pocketbook? And I keep trying to take this back to like, this is you and your investment. And, you know, I do personally feel that until we accomplish something, that the team should not be living large or spending money on themselves. If you make a project and your project hasn't accomplished anything and you have millions of dollars, I don't think you should be spending that on yourself. I think you should take care of your needs. You know, get yourself a place that's not extremely like really nice. Maybe pay your bills, but like live on our level until you've succeeded. And here's the only reason I say like, what have we accomplished is like, we haven't accomplished anything yet. The swap is easy. That's not a huge deal. The wallet, everybody has a wallet. I'm just being real, guys. If this was another project, everybody would agree with me. But if I talk about Safemoon, people are quick to defend it because it's their investment. But let's just be real. The holders, I mean, that is an accomplishment, right? But it came from probably mostly celebrity endorsements, who then were selling and dumping on the people who bought in. Is that considered an accomplishment? I don't know. I'm not trying to roast Safemoon right now, but when you just start talking about what happens, it starts to become a roast. Control is just realistic. Why are you so negative? No patience. Black negativity, but just show me the card or show me the exchange or actual dates. I am hopeful. I feel I am in the dark with Safemoon. You know, Chris is my friend, but I keep hearing this is coming, and that is just wait. Well, okay, so I just wait. Well, that's the thing, is like, I'm okay with waiting for utilities. I think that if any of us started our own project and you were trying to make a utility, and you had a large group of people who were like saying now, like, give us that utility, that you probably want to get it done as fast as possible. And you probably want to give them something to get them to get off your case or to keep the hype going, which would be dates. I think, and then this became a real problem because it led to a bunch of disappointment and lack of trust. And dates do that. But once again, I'm just getting into what I see is like really important is the psychology of why the project started, the psychology of what it is now. And unfortunately, we don't have that information, right? We only have what the team has put out and what has come out in complaints against John. So John was given the keys to Safemoon, the reins of Safemoon. It was in his control. Then we had Hank, Jack, and Thomas. And we heard the audio of Hank, and they were cool. They looked cool in the AMAs, but Hank, it's like you have that one bad moment, and that's the one that gets recorded, and it's like you weren't always that way, but that one time that you lost your temper happens to be being displayed in the media. I do think that Hank probably wasn't always like that, and he was drinking, and when I have talked to him, he has been a pretty nice and pleasant guy. But when that comes out, people are just going to be like, oh, you're this hateful drunk that talked trash about John. But the audio came out of Hank saying, they're complaining, they're upset with John and the direction he's taking with Safemoon. John wanted to take a centralization approach to Safemoon. And Thomas and Hank and them were about like, hey, this is about decentralization. The entire point of this is decentralization. So there was a disagreement between the main core team on the direction of Safemoon. Of course, that's not going to work out. And then there was this bitterness between the team and John, who's controlling the future of Safemoon, while we're just investors sitting in the back, not knowing this is all going on unless you're, unless you have ties to them and know people that are on the inside who are telling you what's going on, maybe part of the moderating team or something like that. And it came out that, Thomas and them, I believe, wanted to create what they thought would be the next Safemoon, which ended up not being that, as obviously. But the idea kind of comes down to, and this is really important, to question your beliefs, right? Don't assume your beliefs are right. Question them and see if they're logical. And the beliefs that people have come to now is John cleaned house. John has always had our back. He's always put us first. He's always put Safemoon first. And the problems are gone and we're good now. Now, you're not allowed to question that idea, which to me makes it even more questionable for somebody who is logical. Do I want John to put Safemoon first? Yeah, I would love it. I hope that's what he's doing. Am I convinced that he has? No, I'm not. I'm going to be honest. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. I think that John did the best he could in some ways, probably. I think that he leaned on his relationships with his mom and his family, as far as the Barajali group, however you pronounce it, and their connections with the Gambia to get meetings with the Gambian government to make a connection with Safemoon, the currency. It was talked about as being a type of currency and the freedom of the unbanked. And then it talked about wind turbines and Project Phoenix. And if you listen to the story on how this came about, the outside team was like, yeah, we didn't know what he was talking about. So this was like John's thing, right? Clearly it's his thing, his connections to possibly the CIA, but I don't think so. But to the Barrett Holly group is where I would think that he got these connections from. And these connections were recently cut off, guys. They're still pursuing endeavors there, but whatever they had going there was clearly cut off in John's recent trip to there, which I believe was during the birthday month. So I think we were supposed to have something big, and it just ended up not coming out. We knew John was in the Gambia, and then the birthday month was just this kind of big letdown that ended with flood flakes. The exchange was like, okay, they've got the exchange working. Like, okay, cool. Like they have something real going on. That's like the best part about the birthday month. But overall, it was kind of disappointing. But back to the point, which is like John's perception and goal and direction with Safemoon, I think, like, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but he just doesn't talk to us about these things. So we have to speculate. And I could speculate that he is a complete jackass that's just throwing money at random things. Or I could speculate that maybe, I like to assume that people probably try to do what they think is right and don't just have evil intentions. That John probably thought that, hey, we can use Safemoon to actually help the Gambia. I really think that he probably was thinking about that, and that we can come up with ways to help them and try to, incorporate technology into that. So, and connect it to blockchain technology, especially when you start talking about, maybe tracking different things on the blockchain and moving things from like the internet to the blockchain so that it's viewable for everybody. And can't be changed and stuff like that. There is this cool movement of, I really do believe is happening, of blockchain technology being integrated into the world, which almost unfortunately might end up being a bigger system of control. It might end up being what we didn't want it to be. If the government or those who control the world take over and they force everybody to have to use their blockchain or their currency, and they can see any transactions that are happening, and if you use an outside blockchain, then that's illegal action basically. Even though it would be really hard to track, but still you have to somehow get that money to your account, which leaves us with problems of them controlling the bank accounts and you having to go through a centralized exchange where you have to be KYC'd in order to get it to your account. But so I do think that John was trying to make these things happen with the money that he had, these connections happen. At the same time, do I feel like he spent the money? Do I feel like he put the investors over himself, the future of Safemoon over himself, with how we spent money? I don't feel that way. I think there's a lot of ways that we could be spending this money a lot better by giving it back to the investors. I think we could be buying and burning tokens would be a way to give it back. I mean, imagine if we had taken a lot of that money that we'd made from Bitmart, just millions and millions and millions of dollars from Bitmart, and used it for buyback and burn on Safemoon. That would be putting the investors first, right? Or just like saying, hey, we can't be messing around with trying to get these ideas that might not be good for the investors first. You know what I mean? Like, is the wind turbine actually going to be this like thing that a lot of people start buying? And it was somebody else's wind turbine, but we, I think sprayed it with something. And I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. I'm just trying to describe it for what it is. We tried to put technology on it that makes it work better, which was already a part of aerospace anyways. So that, is that something that's actually going to be like widely adopted, that it starts to create a large burn for us? Because we were told at 32, every burn is, every turn is a burn. And this is the ideas that are causing people to keep investing in a project. Like, I'm sure everybody bought because of hype ideas about something that they didn't fully understand. I did that. I mean, I did that about the exchange and blockchain. I thought that's got to be huge, and this could be big. So I bought because they said the blockchain and the exchange was coming by the end of last year. And I think that when you start to look at all these ideas that were coming out, and the owls and the mesh networks and all these things that people buy, people are going to buy because of those things. So to me, it's not just important how you interact with your investors based on how you spend their money that they gave to you, but it's also important how the mindset that you're giving them. Like, are you teaching them to be overly hyped about things that aren't overly positive? And I do lean, this is just my opinion, I know people are going to hate me for it, I do think that is being taught, that's been taught about 32, about the birthday month. It was a DigiFinex listing, and other projects got that listing within a week, within a couple of weeks. Why would that be this huge thing? Unless it was just they had something else in mind in the Gambia that fell through, so they switched it to the DigiFinex listing. I don't know, but that's not a hard thing to really get. If other projects can do that within a couple weeks of that. So it's also like, it's also setting a truthful, realistic mindset. Like, to me, it's important. Like, hodl, I don't think you should teach people to hold. I think you should teach people what your roadmap is, be honest with them what's going on behind the scenes. And I'll be honest with you guys, if I owned a project and I had this guy who you guys really believed in, you guys thought he was just one of the best blockchain experts ever, and I knew that a lot of people were invested in this project because he was here, and I also knew that he didn't like the direction that I was taking the project and that he was going to leave, then to me, like, I knew Thomas was leaving. Safemoon Whale left because we knew that Jack, Hank, and Thomas quit. John's brother had the message of him saying Jack quit for different reasons, Hank and Thomas for the same. There's a leaked image from Charles that came out of Discord, and then they tried to deny it and hide it, and it was like, it's too late. We all saw that, and now you guys are lying to us about that. And we're saying Papa's not quitting, Papa's not effing leaving. And any real investor who wasn't like using them as the ultimate source of truth, who just using their brains, and their logic was like, okay, clearly Thomas is thinking about quitting and was just convinced to stay around longer, and it had to be by John. Papa was kicked from Discord. He was in a space talking about like, I can't do this forever, and I still have a space, and I still have a life and things I want to do. He was very clearly indicating like, I don't want to be part of Safemoon. And it was stressing him out, and it was something about death threats and stuff. And you know what? I think by that time he'd already gotten his money from Kyle, which if you get a large amount of money and that's the reason you're kind of doing something, what motivation do you have to keep working on a project you don't believe in? You know what I mean? I feel like that probably hits so deep. It's like, you made a ton of money. You don't believe in the future of this project. You're getting hate for it. If you make a meme or a joke or something, everybody loses their minds. Yeah, of course they probably don't want to be a project. It's going in the direction that you don't believe in. It's going towards centralization instead of decentralization. And the guy who is in charge of everything is attacking your friend Kyle and telling him that if he does anything that he's going to sue them or something, according to their words. Now, some people might say, oh, they just made all of that up, and that's fine if that's your conclusion. I tend to think that there's truth is a part. You can tell when someone's telling the truth and when someone's making something up. I was just watching this murder documentary of these two kids who decided to kill one of their classmates for fun because they thought they were going to be rich and famous, and their alibi was that they were at a movie theater, but they weren't at the movie theater, so they were asking them, well, where'd you go? What was the movie about? All these things. And the mind has a really hard time coming up with information when it's making it up. But when it's something that's happened, it's very easy to describe. Yes, I did this, and I saw this tree, and there was this guy. There's so many details in your memory, and there's none when you're trying to make it up. So unless you're really like good at lying and have practiced making up details on the spot over and over again, and most people just haven't practiced that. So it's very clearly these kids just murdered this girl and got away with it. And in that same instance, I think that there is a lot of truth to Thomas and other people that are on the team that's going to come out, that when you listen to them speak and they're very quick to answer and say things, I think there's a lot of truth to it and what happened. I know that's probably a lot to absorb. I don't know why Safemoon Army is so scared of asking the uncomfortable questions. We as a community should be asking them left and right. We have every right to question where our money goes. I think it's because if it leads to something you don't want to hear, I really think that's it. It's like, this might lead to something I just don't want to hear or don't want to believe. Dude, nobody cares what you have to say. If you are better than John, then go create your own project and do it your way. Thanks for that, man. That was pretty funny. It's called Mind F. CC, how long have you been in the crypto space? These concepts are not new. Hundreds of projects do similar things. Hyping products associated with THOI. I've been in it about a year. If you lie, your credibility is gone in my eyes. Yeah, give me $1 million and I'll never leave. A few moments later. Bye, guys. Are we ever even going to get Safemoon card application? Everyone's so caught up on making the price skyrocket. You do know other people are going to sell their positions, so it's better to go up organically than. I'm not trying to convince you to do anything with your investment, guys. I'm just talking about what happened and what is the mindset that we can tell from what John has been through and from what has come out on the team and whether or not they're putting us first or not. Let me check this message really fast. Okay, cool. So, yeah, at this moment, we lose the team, and there's a restructuring. Ryan comes in and really just saves the day with the wallet. Like, I think Ryan delivered on the wallet. Somebody that wasn't part of the team came in and said, bam, let's knock out this wallet, and just knocked it out of the park. And I think that probably, if you guys, when it comes to psychology, if you guys were watching these AMAs, there was a power struggle between Ryan and John, like right off the start in the AMAs, where John had to be like, Ryan, I've got this. Like, let me dictate the order of who's answering these questions coming in. And you're coming in and you're rising up and taking over, almost taking over whenever I'm your boss. And I was like, I could see it right off the bat. If you go back and watch that AMA, I was like, oh, you could see it. You could see it between them. And there was the Safemoon Army treated Ryan like the savior because Ryan came in and delivered something. And that's all we all wanted was just like, deliver something, please. We were all so hyped about the wallet. I streamed the wallet countdown. We were all so hyped. That's one of my best Safemoon streams, was like 40-something thousand views. It was a very hype, very long, exciting stream. And it didn't come out, and a lot of people bought into it, and then somebody sold like a large amount afterwards, and a lot of people I know lost faith in the project because the information basically came, this was a lot of FUD coming out around the same time. The information basically came out that they didn't have a wallet ready, and it was like, why was their account down? Did they just not know they didn't have a wallet ready? And it's like there is and then they said it was the website thing, but they just didn't have a wallet. So a lot of people lost a lot of faith in Safemoon at that moment. And it's like, okay, clearly they wouldn't just deliberately do a countdown to a nothing to make themselves look like idiots that don't deliver. Like, I wouldn't think they would do that on purpose. But at the same time, what that does mean is that the people in charge don't really know what's going on and don't really know that there wasn't something there. And everybody's psychology today is to just blame everybody else and not hold any accountability for John, that he might have made mistakes or done things wrong or not done what's best for us. And to me, that's just not a realistic approach, because I think we're all equal. And I think the problems that we see in each other, we all have within ourselves to different varying degrees of different kinds. So I don't think John is perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I'm better than John. When it comes to it, I actually do think John is a smart guy. It doesn't really come down to being smart. It just comes down to like a moral issue. Like, are you putting the Safemoon army at first when you talk about bleeding Safemoon? Are you structuring everything in the sense that you're actually focusing on what the Safemoon army wants? If you go look at John's interviews recently, people talk about when they invested in you, do they understand that they invested in, like, you are doing these return on impact, that you're focusing on just helping people, even if it doesn't necessarily bring profit. And I know I could just feel the Safemoon army within myself, like, hell no, that's not what we're focused on. Like, yes, if it leads to us making the price go up, or even if it's like a small part of our ecosystem that's designed to help people, I think we'd all be okay with that. But if like a lot of our energy and effort and money is going towards something that's not helping the community, even though that's selfish, that's the reason they got into Safemoon. If Safemoon's price never went up, but we helped a bunch of people, I think most people wouldn't want that, because you're not into Safemoon to help people. You're in it because you want a Lambo and you want a nice house, you want financial freedom. And that's why we're telling everybody to get in it, because it's this long hold and the price is going to skyrocket one day. And you just have to keep holding and storing up for when the price finally goes up. And I've said this before, if that happens, if the price does end up skyrocketing, then everybody who took that mindset are going to be paid off the most, right? But to me, it's gambling. Like, no matter what, it's gambling. Because we don't know the future, we're gambling. Which is why, like, it's important to let people choose their investing strategy without condemning them as unbelieving idiots or as maxi morons. Like, either way, like, there's problems, but don't try to control people's investment and don't try to judge them based on how they go about their investment. But it's a different thing to judge somebody for thinking they're better than somebody else, right? That's like, hey, we're not. So stop attacking each other. Stop being self-righteous. Stop associating belief in Safemoon with a righteous thing whenever all we're talking about is being rich. You know what I mean? It's not like we're talking about saving children from sex trafficking or something like that. We're just talking about the hopes that we're going to make a lot of money one day. And I think it's just super important. Like, all these things come together and play a role in where this is like our entire journey of Safemoon. And then we had Ryan, and Ryan was giving signs of, like, saying, you know, the general, if you lose your general because the general is wise to the ways of war, then you've lost, you know, your ability to make good decisions. And it was clearly a, like, reference to, like, him and John. And we're like, oh, having some issues there. I made a video about it this day, and I'm going to keep pointing this out because it literally gets to the heart of the psychology of investors today, that they don't have a realistic mindset. It's okay to be hopeful and positive about the future, but it's not okay to be unrealistic and attack other people for it. And I said, guys, Ryan's giving signs of quitting. I didn't realize it 4 hours later from when I made that video, after being, some people agree with me. A lot of you guys are like real logical and are like, yeah, you're right. He's definitely talking, like, some of you guys aren't religiously attached to your investment. And a lot of you guys agreed with me and could see it. But some other people were attacking me as a fudder, making stuff up, seeing nothing that was there. Oh, you're just, you know, just getting, like, treating me like I was crazy. And 4 hours later, he quit. And it was just like an immediate, like, shutdown to everybody who just attacked me. And I've made this point before that they couldn't see reality. It was right in front of their face. And I was like, you guys are going to make that exact same mistake again. And it's going to have an impact on you. And you're so worried about me telling people what actually happened with Safemoon that it might cause them to sell and they might lose out on their money. But you're not worried at all about like you causing people to buy while the price has been going down the past year. And I think when I say things like this, people go, man, I effing hate that guy. I think that's just what they feel inside themselves to point something like that out to them. Like, dude, I freaking hate you. And that's why I get all this cancel culture and stuff, because I point out the illogical and moral inconsistencies and hypocrisies of these ideas. Because the problem is, if you couldn't see reality with Thomas whenever I called it out and people hated me for it, and you couldn't see the reality with Ryan, then how do you know you can see the reality with John? Maybe you're using the same perception that you had with them, the same psychology towards your investment that is unrealistic, that can't see what's happening, and that's leading other people to not see it correctly either. When it comes to John, like, are we perceiving John correctly when it comes to your investment? Now, for me, I don't go about my investment that way. Like, I don't care what it is. I put money in because I expected a return. I don't care if I think John's hair is nice or he needs to wear suits or not wear suits. Or even if you like might have a moral disagreement with something, you might be like, well, I don't agree with the team, or I think this might be a rug pull, but I still think I have potential to make money. You could still invest in it. You know what I mean? We're gambling. We're putting money in at the risk of losing it in the hopes of making more. We're gambling, and mostly pyramid schemes. Safemoon really needs to start showing some actual productive projects and not just wait till it's coming. I'm just at the point, show me already. Yeah, I think everybody's there. Everybody's like, hey, let's just do something real. And this is where, like, when it comes to the psychology of what's going on, because this happened with Thomas and Hank, because this happened with Ryan, because CoffeeZilla put out these videos, because I covered this stuff and I talked about it, it's put a lot of pressure, I think, on the team to, like, don't mess around. We will track your wallets. We will pay attention to how you spend your money. I will talk about it regardless if everybody hates me or not for it. I don't care. I'm going to talk about how swap and evolve is the same thing as swap and liquefy. But if you show me something positive, I'm also going to talk about that. If swap and evolve actually was better, and I have said maybe the lower thresholds are better, but then there's the difference in gas fees, because you're doing like 2.5 times more gas than you would have if you would have just sold the tokens. I will talk about the positive things, but I'm also going to talk about the negative things. It puts a lot of pressure on them to actually do something real and to actually put out something to stop messing around. Like, stop wasting money, stop putting money on stuff that, like, billboards or other things that aren't a big deal. Like, we don't care about a new symbol or FUD flakes. We need something real. You can only drag somebody along so long before they stop caring. And I think a lot of people have lost a lot of faith in Safemoon, unfortunately, because the exchange and blockchain and wallet didn't come out when they were supposed to, and because Thomas quit. That had a huge impact on Safemoon. Thomas quitting, everybody loved Thomas. If Thomas had stuck around, and maybe even if Ryan had stuck around, because I knew people that said, if Ryan quits, I'm leaving. And I'm saying, okay, well, I'm one of the few people that provided you with a realistic perception that he probably was going to right before he did. So I told you the truth while everybody else told you he's not quitting. And if it's not from the official source, don't believe it. Just freaking crazy to me. That's like listening. That's like trusting your government to tell you the truth. That's like letting your government to tell you whether they've been good or bad. Okay. With all that said, you know what's so funny about this is, like, this sounds negative, but all I'm doing is talking about what has happened. And that's the sad part. I think that's why I've been divided, and I've been kind of depressed lately, because all I did was talk about everything that's happened, and I get called a fudder. But they're the ones who quit. They're the ones who did this stuff. They're the ones who spent the millions of dollars. They're the ones who did these things, and I'm telling you about them. And a lot of people appreciate me telling you about it, but a lot of people hate me for it. And it sucks, man. It's not fun. That's why I'm like, I really just prefer talking about the math. But if there's something really important that's either positive or negative, I'm going to tell you about it. If I think it's relevant to your investment, I will tell you. I try to stay away from the negative, but if it's Thomas quitting, I'm gonna be doing a live stream. If it's Ryan quitting, I'm gonna put out a video. If it's John and having his wallet receive millions of dollars that he spent on himself on a house and cars, I'm gonna tell you about that. Even though everybody hates my guts for continuing to talk about that, they don't want me to talk about that. That's the last thing they want me to talk about. And I'm being outcast as a fudder, of somebody who needs to be silenced, as somebody who is evil, who is trying to hurt you, who is trying to steal from you and take your investments, who's doing it for selfish reasons, who's doing it so he can get his own project to do well. And it's like, because I tell you guys the truth, I become hated by a lot of people, and they lie about me. They lied and said I did this for my own project. They lied and said I'm doing this for clout. And it's like, I'm built on the name Safemoon, Crypto Control is. So I'm doing this to gain views and subs by telling you the truth. And by the way, when it comes out that Thomas did quit or Ryan did quit or these bad things did happen, they don't turn around and say, oh, wow. Like, a couple people do. And I really respect the people that go, damn, you were right again. I had somebody say that when Ryan quit. They said, I think you were... I know you were right about Thomas and them, but I think you're way off on this one. 4 hours later, Ryan quit. They came back and said, I'm never going to doubt you again. And I'm not saying never doubt me, but don't think that I'm doing this with ill intention. I don't talk about something to hurt Safemoon. I just talk about what's real. And it's extremely unfortunate that there is lawsuits and that money has been spent and that money has been taken and that people have quit and that maybe not the best intentions have been put into Safemoon, which is why I like I said, I'm just like, you know what? I can get all this hate and negativity and they try to separate me from the Safemoon community, and it doesn't feel great. It's not a great feeling, especially like I'm an investor. I'm friends with people that are into Safemoon. I'm friends with investors. I'm seen as somebody who's made cool videos on Safemoon. But if I just stick to I thought, I'll just stick to the math. And unless there's something really concerning that comes out again, then I can talk about that. Otherwise, I can just talk about the math and talk about if another positive thing comes out. But then I started talking about the difference between Sal and Say, and people got so upset because I told them that Say was no different than Sal. They had an equal outcome, other than the lowering of the thresholds. Now, once again, it's like speaking the truth. I get hated for telling people the truth, because the truth is that Safemoon and other people were saying that the buy that was happening on Swap and Evolve was fixing the sell that happened on Swap and Liquify. But they didn't know that the buy came from twice as much selling. And they didn't see that it was an equal outcome. Sal only sold half. Swap and Evolve sells all of it so that it can buy. So all I was doing was talking about the math and telling people like, hey, and I was debating. I was being called a fudder. I was being told that you need to do some research, that you're misinforming people, that you're lying. I was once again getting attacked for talking literally about freaking math. It's blow my mind. The crap that I have to go through when I talk about this stuff. Now, you guys that follow me, I think a lot of you guys were just like, okay, that makes sense. And most people who I think understand these concepts just go like, okay, that makes sense. But it is a little stressful. I have to deal with that every single time, that any time that something's logical or mathematical or makes sense that contradicts what you've been taught to believe, that I become the enemy for telling you the truth. Is it more important to have you be hyped about ideas that aren't true because it feels positive, or is it more important to tell you the truth? Which one is actually positive? In my mind, it's a negative thing to do to your investors psychologically. If I had a project and I was convincing my investors, either whether it's me or whether it's my team, of things that aren't actually positive, to believe that they're bigger than they are, to believe that they're positive when they're not, that's a negative thing, even if it makes you feel good about your investment, because it's not true. Truth is, our hype, our belief, our positivity needs to be built on a solid foundation of truth. And the truth is, Swap and Evolve lowered the threshold, but it increased the gas. There wasn't this huge improvement from Swap and Liquify. And I think these are the things that we have to look at, is that most investors are not a reliable source of perspective. Whenever we're going to be looking at what we have to pay attention to, they're going to overhype everything positive and what's the word? I'll just write down the dumb word that came to my head. Underplay anything negative. Now, that's really important, because as an investor and people who spend money, if you're convincing people to buy when you're overhyping something, that's dishonest. That's lying. That's like stealing from them. And if there's something hugely negative that's coming, like Thomas quitting or Ryan quitting or the lawsuits or these other things, and you say, oh, it's a nothing burger, that's FUD, those happen all the time. You know what I mean? It just becomes this extremely unrealistic perspective. And I don't want to go about my investment with that type of mindset that doesn't value truth over your desires. Let me stop for a second and read some of your guys' comments. Basically, Safemoon started as a scam, and now they realize some bigger was coming. I hope so. I hope so, man. It's not fun if you're asking questions. You should always ask questions. At least we get drunk for free at the casino. Yeah, if you're in Vegas. Other casinos and other places don't have that. I'm in Oklahoma. You don't get free drinks. You got to pay for them. It's only if you're in Vegas. And if you're on a slot machine, you can get free drinks. You're talking about Mark, who's already rug pulled. Sorry, but that's how I feel. I lost money. Yeah, Mark didn't rug pull. You write your name up here. You're trying to battle other people's distorted reality, the perception on Safemoon. Those people will never understand until the smoking gun is revealed. Yeah, they won't, and they won't give you any credit. So it's kind of like talking about it for credit is not you don't talk about that for credit, because no one's going to give you credit for it. People, just my followers and other people that follow me are going to be like, hey, thank God you're saying this. Thank God you're having a space where we can discuss these things, because everybody, and this goes outside of crypto, this goes to politics and religion, they don't feel comfortable saying things because they know they're going to get attacked, whether by the powers that be or just by the mob mentality of people who don't believe what's real, because they can't defend their ideas from a place of respect. They have to defend it from a place of attacking you, which is usually a huge indicator that they've believed something that's not true, and they have to defend it with that mindset instead of just being like, hey, you can feel that way and I don't feel that way. But if you look at Darren Robinson, he's super positive, super hype, big believer in Safemoon, but he's super respectful to other people who don't believe in Safemoon. If you can respectfully say how you feel about Safemoon, he's like, yeah, man, that's how you feel, that's fine. So he's he's the rare example of, in my perception, of somebody who can maintain belief in something in spite of a lot of negative things and still be respectful to those who have a different perception than him. M. Khan, I kind of want to break down the thoughts for you. Did Mark hack? Because Mark was on the Safemoon team, and guys, I just want to say this: if the hack hadn't happened, and if the Safemoon team would have listened to Mark, I do believe Safemoon would be in a much better position today. And oh man, just the rage people would get from hearing me say that. But I guess I'm not allowed to have an opinion, though. Was Mark hacked, or did he rug it himself? M. Kubara and M. Khan, I want to ask you this, because this actually is really important, because Safemoon wanted Mark. Like, they saw his videos, they knew how smart he was, they wanted him on the team. That they hired Mark, right? It wasn't like a small thing. He was doing Safemoon AMAs, but we're taught to hate him because of the hack, right? Taught to believe a narrative that we didn't actually come to ourselves. So I just want to, let me just logically do this. If Mark did a rug, would he disappear, delete everything, and take the money, take the $6 million, buy himself a nice house, buy himself a cars, start up a new name, DeFi Chris. You can start up any account. He wasn't doxxed. Mark was not doxxed when this happened. And start up a new account, even though he just got hired by Safemoon. Or if he was hacked and he really cares about people, he really cares about DeFi, he's very upset that this happened, would he stick around, even though no one knows who he is, and promise to pay everyone back? And most people, nobody makes $1 million a year. I know no one in here makes $1 million a year, and he's trying to pay $6 million back to all these holders. Everybody's like, "Where's my money, Mark? Where's my money?" And it's like, dude, how much have you made? How many other people have rug pulled you? How many other people have made crap projects? But you've been taught to think this about Mark by somebody else, because Mark has possibly at different times spoken about just mathematical equations with it. And contracts that are, in his opinion, he just comes at it from a math standpoint, and people get upset. Clearly, I mean, you could say possibly if Mark rugged it, stuck around, and decided to pay everybody back, I mean, that'd be the most insane rug pull I've ever seen. When I see rug pulls, I know you guys, Decentraland just rug pulled, and you delete your website, you delete your socials, you take the money, and you disappear. You delete all your accounts, and you disappear. And you can reemerge as somebody else, and nobody knows that you're the person in charge of that rug pull. It makes no sense for Mark to take his name that was been heavily tarnished, just heavily negatively impacted by the hack, and say, you know what, I'm going to stick with this name, DeFi Mark, and I'm gonna work through this, and I'm gonna pay everybody back. Makes absolutely no sense. But here's the place for judgment for you. Because we want to judge Mark, but it's like, okay, have you made a mistake before? And if you made a mistake and you did, and you're doing your best to pay it back, did you? Are you going to condemn other people? Now, if Mark had disappeared, I mean, most people in Mark's position would have just left. They would have just dipped, and all they had to. Nobody knew who Mark was. He could have dipped and reemerged, and unless he used his voice, people would have been like, hey, that sounds like DeFi Mark. He didn't. He said, I'm sticking with this name. I'm sticking with all this hate, all this negativity, all these lies about me, and I will pay this back, and I will justify my name, and the truth will come out. But when you're somebody out here, you believe this, and you're not willing to question your own beliefs, but you believe the lie that he rug pulled that and stuck around to pretend that he's going to pay it back, even though he's not going to. And I know that you didn't come up with that yourself. I know you were taught that by somebody else, or you came to it illogically, dishonestly, because you're upset that you lost money. I lost money too. But to me, it's just insane to judge somebody who's choosing to stick around and pay people back. It's like you have a distorted view of Mark. But if Mark had stuck on Safemoon, I think that we'd be in a much better position just because of how good he is at DeFi. When it comes down to the psychology of Safemoon, I mean, I would love to hear John. He's expressed, when you look at the psychology of John's mindset, he has expressed how he feels, like, right? Like, it's going to come out. You can only, when you talk, you really can't help but reveal what it is that's going inside your head. And when John describes Safemoon, it's the evolution, it's innovation, return on impact. You guys are going to really like what I'm about to say, because I'm about to get to the heart of something that's kind of a big deal that just I don't think has ever been talked about. John worked with gaming. If you go listen to John's interview, he talks about how he got into gaming. This is actually huge in relation to this whole conversation. And hopefully this clicks for some of you guys, but John talks about how important it was to tell a story. Now, why is a story being compared with what's going on with Safemoon during these interviews? To me, like, that was always just like, why would a story be involved? Like, to me, like, the story should be us making great products and blowing up. That should be the story. But we shouldn't be trying to control a narrative. I don't believe in that. I think you should tell the truth, good or bad. And if we look at what the narrative was from Safemoon from its beginnings to where we went, to where we are, the story was quite an interesting one. And it really sucks because I mean, maybe I just love to talk to John and be able to ask him these questions, like to hear his side of the story, because I'm a big believer in hearing somebody out before you come to conclusions. If somebody comes and tells you a bad story about somebody, you're like, yeah, okay, but I can't just take that as 100% fact. I need to hear it from their side. I'd like to hear John's explanation of the Bitmart wallets and why the wallet didn't release and why did they do the owls. Like, why would you joke? Why would you hint about owls when you're talking about how story plays a huge purpose in what you're doing? Well, if you look at the story of the owls, we were looking at mesh networks and Elon Musk and looking up anybody that has the name Hoot to see if maybe they were going to play a role in Safemoon's future. I personally, if I was in charge of a project, I wouldn't want people wildly speculating about something that I knew was a joke about owls having sex. Like, I would be like, guys, don't get too crazy with this. It was an inside joke. It's not anything huge. I would make sure to clarify to my investors so that they don't wildly speculate on how big things could be. And to me, like when you look at one of the biggest things of Safemoon, I honestly do think that it has been wild speculation. Has been a huge factor with Project Phoenix. And if you look at what John has talked about, as far as controlling, if you go look at that interview where he talks about how he learned through his gaming thing how to control a story of something, it's like that's an interesting thing, because if we look at the story of what's happened with Safemoon, and it has been dropping tiny hits. We know that John drops tiny hints that lead to huge speculation. They get everybody hyped. They go, oh, this is huge. We're going to the moon. And I think that has been the story of Safemoon. Now, I will agree. I will try to give, like, we did release a wallet. Is that a huge thing that's going to change the price? No. We did release a swap. Is the money coming from the swap being used for the investors? I hope so. I don't think it's directly going to buy back and burn, which would be amazing to see. Like, to me, like when you talk about bleeding Safemoon, it's like, what is Safemoon? Is it the investors, or is it your idea of what the future of Safemoon is going to be? Now, is it better to just give money back to the investors, or is it better to take that money and spend it on something that will make even more money than giving that money to the investors? Probably the latter, right? It's like, hey, I could give you guys this money, or I could take this money, make something real, which I think the only real thing that I see that Safemoon has lined up is the exchange in the blockchain and cryptonomics, if it brings in more investors. But I think we've reached to the point where this wild speculation, these hints, they're not doing it. And the story and the narrative is being directed towards, if something real doesn't happen, then people are going to pull out. Like, it can only last so long before people pull out. You're going to have a large group of people that are going to stick in no matter what and defend the team no matter what. But it was interesting to watch the faith of people, and people don't understand the word faith. It's so interesting that people associate faith with something that it's not. But and it's okay if you've never known. But they associate faith with something that has no foundation. If you have faith in a bridge, you can see that it's got a real sturdy foundation. It's concrete. There's no cracks. It's just been developed. It's got extra like poles and stuff holding it up. You believe that bridge is going to be very sturdy to walk across. You trust that the bridge is going to hold you up when you walk across it. Faith, belief, and trust are the same words. And just like if the bridge was like this crappy wood thing that looks like it was about to collapse, and you saw that, you would have no faith that it was going to hold you. You wouldn't believe that it was going to hold you. You wouldn't trust that it's going to hold you. So a lot of people just don't quite understand the difference in those words. And that's okay. I think a lot of atheists like to associate the word faith with this completely illogical, unfounded trust in something, but it's actually the opposite. It's they themselves have faith in their beliefs, and they just try to associate that word with something that it's not. RB, he's going over. Oh, hey, Maris, how's it going? You're probably talking trash to me now. He's going over psychological analysis of Safemoon, like laughing my ass off, bro. Come on now. I'm sorry, but this is comedy to me. That's okay if you feel that way. I'd say if you feel hatred in your hearts or want to mock me, that there's probably room for improvement within yourself, to be more respectful and peaceful, and to desire to help people instead of to tear them down. But we all grow at different rates, and that's okay. Nobody's better than each other. John is fighting too. Crypto is toxic and hostile space. Yeah, I'm definitely down to talk about what John has to go through. But at the same time, when you look at everything we just talked about, the psychology of everything that has happened, people are just not seeing it realistically. There's no accountability for John. There's not. For a lot of people. There's no accountability for the owls. There's no accountability for Thomas quitting when we knew he was going to quit. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, according to Scripture. Yeah, the evidence of things not seen. Yeah, it is about belief, yeah. Nobody does this. It's a project, not a pet. Why are we talking about psychological analysis of a project? Oh, well, like, come on now. Maris, yeah, so, I mean, I can inform you if you'd like, but our interactions have shown that you tend to have a negative perspective towards me that's not actually designed towards having a logical conversation. The psychology of Safemoon is the psychology of what goes into structuring projects. If you go into a project and you structure a project, like Maris, if you were going to go make a project right now, I trust that you, even though we have our differences, I trust that you, I would think, based off our interactions, would try to design something that's actually useful, and that you wouldn't just try to make a project so that you could give yourself the marketing tax or a private wallet that gets the most rewards. So the psychology of really everything is extremely important when you look to how would you structure a project, how would you interact with your audience, how would you release projects, and how as a community, how are we perceiving psychologically our own investments in the people who are running it. And unfortunately, we have found that generally speaking, many of the people who believe in the project believe in it to the point of not being able to see what's right in front of their faces, whether it's swap and evolve being basically the same thing as swap and liquefy at a lower threshold, but selling all the Safemoon for more gas and then buying half, which has the exact equal outcome as swap and liquefy, or whether it's the fact that Ryan's quitting. So I'm like, if you guys have consistently shown the inability to actually perceive your investment correctly, then how do you know you're perceiving it correctly right now? And it's fine if you don't want to, but it's interesting to get into psychology of why they attack people. Just like, why are you in here attacking me and laughing at me like I'm an idiot, like I'm stupid for having a space that talks about why we believe in investments and why we design and structure investments one way or the other. But what we have is something within ourselves, which is our desires, that determines where our thoughts go and what beliefs they hold. And it's very hard to restructure beliefs for people who aren't willing to have a fair standard. Like to me, to have a good approach to information, you have to have a fair standard of judgment to information and to people. Because if you hate somebody and you approach them with a different standard, which is what I would probably lean towards that you do with me, as opposed to another person who's extremely positive about Safemoon, you probably approach them where you're much more accepting of them because their beliefs are in alignment with yours. Then you have a contradictory standard that changes how you perceive information, which changes how you structure your beliefs, which is how you interact with your world. It's extremely important, especially if you start to look at what are we going to invest in the future and what is coming in the future that's going to be huge. Because I think that's something that we all know as investors. We know that something huge, and if you believe that's Safemoon, that's okay. I'm not going to attack you. I appreciate it if you don't attack me. If you can't, that's fine. But I know that something huge is going to come along. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know that I want to be early on it and that there's going to be a lot of profit in that. So psychologically, you do have to look at these things. And the entire point of talking about the psychological perspective of investors is, are they perceiving all positive information, all the hype? Do they just hear anything that could be positive and go, yeah, it's going to be huge? And everybody loves that feeling because I'm going to get everything I want and this financial freedom. Yeah, of course we love that feeling. But is it realistic? A lot of the times we find that it's not. It wasn't realistic with the owls. Does it actually have the potential to realistic? It wasn't realistic with Elon Musk. There's all these things. It's like it's unrealistic, and it doesn't mean it's positive just because it makes you feel good and paints Safemoon in a good light and paints the idea of you being rich one day, and because people who agree with that feeling and agree with each other feel happy with each other. That doesn't mean it's positive if it's founded on information that's not true. Now they would say, no, it is true. But if you go into breaking it down, you'll find out that a lot of the times it's not true. So psychologically, when we approach investments, you see people who have a approach to negative information as dismissing it and approach to positive information as deeply embracing and like wildly speculating on it and accepting of it because of the outcomes is more beneficial to what they want than what they don't want. It's really that simple. And the point of what I'm talking about is because John has talked about how he learned from working with his gaming, and he's talked about this in different interviews. Well, first of all, we talked about the psychology of why Safemoon was structured, what happened with the team, and the story that's been told the entire time, and how do you interact with your investors, Maris, and other people in here. When you interact with your investors, we see it today in a lot of different projects. You want people to be hype about something, but you don't want them to be hype about something that sucks, right? Or isn't true. And I think that we've seen consistently over and over and over again that people get hyped about things that don't have a big impact on the price, that don't actually have something tied to what it is that they want. And you're kind of just like dangling something in front of their face. And I'm like, yeah, here it is. It's going to be amazing. And it's not. And, oh, but we've got this other thing. We've got the owls, guys. And it's like, no, that's a dishonest approach from you to your investors. We need to be honestly, if we know that what excites them is the price going up, and I get ready for the cancel culture for crypto control. Just cancel crypto control. He's a futter, idiot, moron, doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that's inevitable. That's going to happen in your hearts and in the Safemoon people who just believe so much that Safemoon is going to succeed to the point of hating other people who don't believe it and considering them fools and attacking them for it and trying to cancel them for it. That's going to happen. But that's okay. We live and we learn and we grow, and people are going to mature at different rates. And many people have changed their mindsets. But the entire point of this entire conversation is so that we could get a true perspective of the reality of what's good and bad that's going to happen to Safemoon right now. And if we look at what's good and bad, we have we have the lawsuits. We have what the team in the past has done. And we have possibly what John has done. And as an investor, I personally, this is my approach. If you don't believe in it, that's fine. I want to know if something could happen to have a huge negative impact on Safemoon. I was worried about the lawsuits for a very long time. I was worried about, and I've told people this. I reached out to Ryan after Ryan quit, and I said, Ryan, I'm a little worried about the lawsuits. Do you have any information? And he says, I don't think it's a big deal. But then he said, I don't have any information that you don't have. But we know that when Ryan left, he said that I have to seek counsel for myself because of the lawsuits that are happening, that Safemoon wasn't going to be covering him, I guess, because he was quitting. But I also want to know the good. I want to know is the exchange, like I want to mathematically understand how cryptonomics is going to work. And is that really going to bring in more investors, or is it designed to fail? Is it actually better than other things out there that's going to make people want to hold on our exchange, that's going to have a huge increase in volume? And this perspective is missing from a lot of people that are the most outspoken within the community. They attack people who don't see everything as positive as just this amazing thing, and they attack people who talk about realistic negative things. And I've given example of that time and time again. So this is extremely important when it comes to Safemoon, when it comes to yourself, when it comes to any idea, any approach to any type of information. If you judge yourself as better than other people because they have different beliefs, you're in a delusion. Like, you're literally stuck in a delusion until you are willing to realize that you're the same as everybody else, and that you're just as likely to believe a lie. And that's why I asked this question earlier, and it's really worth asking. Do you believe, everybody who's listening to me, do you believe that every single belief that you have is 100% true? And it's like, clearly not. because everybody in the world has different beliefs. Do you think that you're far superior to everybody else? And I think that everybody just kind of does feel that way a little bit. We all feel like, yes, I'm trustworthy. Yes, my ideas are logical. Yes, they make sense. Everybody feels that way. But we know that most of us probably have lies that we believe. But how do you figure out the lies that you believe so that you can improve your perception of yourself, your perception of standards of judgment, of right and wrong, and of what's real? It's you. The source of it, I can tell you right now how to cut through all the BS. The source of it is to realize that you might be wrong, and that you need to be more willing to know what's real than to hold on to your beliefs, right? Because it might suck to be like, damn, I thought that, but you know what, that's logical. Or damn, I thought I was an amazing person, but you're right, I'm just as bad as everybody else. It's not the greatest feeling, but with these true beliefs comes freedom. Like, truth is freedom and lies are chains of slavery. And you believe a lie, it's like you're stuck in a pattern of thinking that causes problems. It causes you to attack other people. It causes you to hurt other people. And it's usually motivated by selfishness. You know, when you think you're better than somebody else, you're being selfish. It's that simple. And we've all done it. And all of this comes into play with your perspective of Safemoon, with what's happening, with what's coming, and with new investments that are going to be happening. So when a new investment happens, or when you see something else that's happening, in my mind, there's going to be huge things that are happening that people are not going to find value in, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was a huge thing that was happening. People didn't find value in. All kinds of other things that were huge. People didn't find value in it. I know this is a dumb example, but Elvis. A lot of people thought, man, you suck, and nobody's going to enjoy this. And then he became, rock star, one of the biggest rock stars of all time. And I think that with a realistic perspective, you can have more of a positive impact on your investment decisions, even though you're gambling. So it's not, you can actually make a terribly stupid decision and it end up being a good investment because you're gambling. You know what I mean? That's why I don't tell people what to do with their money. I'm like, well, we're gambling, so you could be making a really dumb decision that actually ends up paying out. I mean, sometimes there's just obvious signs there, especially in the crypto space where 90-something% of projects are just pyramid schemes from people who actually don't have a plan, who actually, the psychology that went into the structure of the design of the crypto was not about making something unique. It was just about them getting their money and getting out. So yes, when you have a realistic perspective towards your investment, and a realistic perspective so that you can actually see what other people aren't seeing. You can see the next Bitcoin. Like, that's the goal, is to see what is the next Bitcoin, because it's probably out there right now and people probably aren't paying attention to it. It's going to be innovative. It's going to be useful. It's not going to be just a hype nothing. Which I guess there's other factors that could go into that. Like, if somebody had seen that Dogecoin was going to be big, they could have invested in that. But regardless, I think it's extremely important for us to not think we're better than each other and to treat each other. Let me go over this. I'm almost done. I know some people hate me. Let me say this. I think a lot of you guys will really agree with these ideas. And these ideas really help us in life. They're not like stupid ideas that are useless and don't need to be thought about. But if you are over here and, you think you're amazing and like, I know everything, right? Like, you believe that your perception and everything you understand is right, and that everybody else who disagrees with, your construct, your set of beliefs, doesn't understand like you do, or even worse, is evil. You start to think you're better than them because they have beliefs that are opposing to yours. And because this is how everybody approaches somebody who doesn't believe in them. So it's actually really important. And let's just say you have who you appear as, and let's just put crypto control here, because I know a lot of people feel this way. Crypto control, idiot, futter, trying to get his own... he's doing it for his own project or whatever. Now, here's my thing. Logically, you have something called the truth, right? And you believe that these beliefs right here are the truth, and you want to tell this person It doesn't have to be me. The truth, right? Now, why are you telling them the truth? Because you could be doing it for the wrong reason. If you're trying to tell somebody the truth because you want to hurt them, you want to let them know how stupid they are, how evil they are, how wrong they are, you're speaking truth in an untruthful way. You're contradicting yourself. But if we speak truth to help people, meaning I'm not trying to let you know how stupid you are or how much better I am than you. And this is where you get into an ego, an idea of yourself, because the idea of who you are and yourself is deeply connected to your beliefs. This is why we see people who get so angry when they find somebody that they attack who doesn't have their beliefs. It's because they literally identify themselves with their beliefs. And this is how they interact with their reality. And their sense of self-righteousness is deeply tied to those beliefs, so that they feel it's okay to tear other people down who don't have those beliefs. And to me, it's like you're stuck. If you believe that way, like you're stuck in a delusion. And I think that we all do that. And it's important to recognize we all do this so that we don't see other people as better. And the most important thing out of I think life is to identify with other people, is to not see them as this other person who's dumb and evil. It's to see it like this is another human being who's ultimately no different than me, and I should want to help them. And I think that wanting to help people is extremely important when it comes to telling them information. It's like my goal shouldn't be to let you know how stupid and evil you are and how much better I am than you. But my goal should be to humble myself before you, say, hey, I'm just the same as you, and my goal is to actually help you through telling you the truth and through not doing it in a way that lifts myself up over you, that makes me feel like I'm smarter than you, I'm more righteous than you. But my goal is for actually you to know the truth because I want to help you. I want you to be, have a better life. I want you to make smart investment decisions. I don't want you to get caught up in something that's not true. I want you to, to me, like that's the entire point. If you're in a debate with somebody and you're not trying to help them, and I don't mean your distorted idea of helping them by telling them what a dumbass they are. I'm trying to help you freaking moron. Like that's not the same thing of like actually being like, you know what? I have the same problems as you, and let's just find some common ground. Then like to me, like this, the heart of psychology is not just investments. It literally is about how human beings pursue knowledge. And I don't mean to go this deep, but basically at the heart of it is our desires determine where our attention goes. Because we have information within our imagination and the simulation of our minds. And our desires will determine our attention to go this way over this way. If we desire evil, you desire all the things that come with evil, which is wrong information. A lot of people haven't quite heard the ideas that these things are interchangeable, that darkness and evil and what's wrong. We've seen it played out throughout life and we've seen it in movies and stuff, but literally the idea of evil is actually associated with what is wrong. And that could be associated with wrong information that leads to a misperception, that leads to how you treat people and stuff. And if you have good desires, you'll tend to believe the opposite of what is good and what is right and what is light. A lot of people, light is something that shows everything for what it is. When you have light, if you light up a room, you can see now. You can see what's there, and you can see that before it was darkness and you couldn't tell what was there. But now, because the light is turned on, now you can see the light in the room, and it works the same way with information. If you believe a lie, whether it's about yourself or life or other people, you're in the dark. You're in darkness about them, and you're stuck in this perception of darkness. And until we get to a point that you face the fact that you're the source of that problem was that you held an idea to be true, and you weren't willing to question that idea against what is true. And a lot of times it's because you didn't want to, because you wanted to believe that in spite of it not being true. So the heart of our problems in life is our desires. And I think that what motivates our desires is ourselves. And this is where we're all on the same playing field. We can all be self-righteous, prideful, egotistical. We can have desires for things that aren't necessarily right. And this, and I really didn't mean to get into all this, but unfortunately you can't not, because everything's connected. Like, there is nothing that somebody can't name right now. You can name anything and I can connect it to something else, because literally everything is connected. There's no idea that can't be connected to another idea. So when we're talking about the psychology of humanity and approaching investments and judging and hating each other and accepting and helping each other, it's important, because that's the same thing that John is doing when you get into how he is interacting with the money that we've basically given them the opportunity to make. You know, we've poured money into it. People from the Bitmart money tax have poured tons of money into it that bought. Yes, they bought with the risk of losing it at the hopes of making it, but we've given, it's like the Safemoon community has provided Safemoon a lot of power. And I think a big part of that did come from, once again, the psychology of huge celebrities who have a lot of pull talking about Safemoon. No, Safemoon, not financial advice. It's a funny thing to say. When you've got millions and millions and millions of followers, people are going to look that up, who really look up to you and trust you and buy Safemoon. Ben Phillips kept talking about Safemoon, and that played a huge role in it. So I'll take a break now, and I'll read some comments. Smart advice: don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Yeah, the more you invest, the more potential for the bigger the risk and the bigger the reward. So the point is to snap back to reality and get off this blind faith belief you're going to get rich and that John and Safemoon is like the second coming. I mean, if that's how you take it, that might be somebody's wake up. Might be what that is like. Educated risk, not blind risk. Algorand is the next Bitcoin. Okay, Algosaurus. Blind faith was investing in Surge also. Sure, yeah, 100%. Desires is a part of human nature. I know. Then you started getting into a very deep, almost philosophical, religious discussion on the nature of humanity and why are we so evil? Why is the world so corrupt? And I think that we all don't identify as evil. We say, oh yeah, I do things here and there, but I'm not killing people. I'm not this thing. I'm not that thing. I'm not Hitler. But it's like, okay, we all lie. We all lust. We all think thoughts that we shouldn't think, that we think nobody else can see. We all think we're better than each other for the most part. Even if we don't want to admit it, we have times of interacting with people where we feel like we're better than them. And this is something we all do. Now, if you want to think you're better than everybody else, that's fine. But I think that's a delusion that you have to work your way through until you finally get to the point where you're like, holy crap, I'm not better than anybody else. And this is the real perception of the world. Dude, even if you invest what you're willing to lose doesn't mean you can't criticize or ask questions. That's such a cheap way of saying just have blind faith like some fool. Maris says, I just don't understand why we can't let people invest what they want. I don't see any other project having this, but that's just me. No, I agree. I've said that the entire time, Maris. Anybody who follows me could parrot what I've said, because I've said it so many times that you shouldn't try to convince people to buy or sell because you don't know what's going to happen. I literally drew a picture of saying, I don't know if it's going to moon or not, because on the positive side, they have the exchange and the blockchain. I'm okay with people being super bullish on SafeMoon. You're never going to find me attacking somebody for being bullish on SafeMoon. The problem is that they attack me for talking about Brian quitting, Thomas quitting, SafeMoon Dev pulling from the liquidity, John's wallets, the SafeMoon Swap and Evolve being the same as Swap and Liquify. For me talking about the truth, which is a negative thing that I didn't do, that they did, I get attacked for it by those people who believe in SafeMoon. And other people get attacked too. Anybody who talks about it. That's why people don't talk about it, is because they know that you're going to get launched from Chris Harris's show, or you're going to get attacked by the community if you have anything negative, any kind of negative criticism. And obviously there's a difference between somebody who's asking questions respectfully and somebody who's just trolling and trashing you. Complete difference there. That's why I just drew the entire thing about, like, if you're telling somebody information, it should be with the hopes of helping them. So when we talk about these things with John and what's been going on this entire time, it's in the hopes that John, if he wasn't put in the SafeMoon army first, I think a lot of people just assume he was. I do lean towards what I see the finances being spent on. His house and cars, I do lean towards thinking that he wasn't putting us first. That I hope that all this pressure does lean towards him to actually evolve. When we talk about evolution and him trying to be a better person every day, that there will actually be this evolution of what people he hires and what way they're spending their money. so that the investors will be put first. Because yes, all these people are on your shoulders, John. And I know John doesn't listen to me, but just on the small chance that he's listening, every Safemoon investor, no matter what stance they have on it, is on your shoulders, waiting to see what you can do, because you're the one person that's in control of Safemoon. With Safemoon, and how you spend the money matters, and how you put out information to us matters. You should not have us overly hyped about something that's not a super positive thing. You need to be providing realistic perspectives, realistic expectations of what's to come and what you're hinting at. I think it's okay to hint at something big if it's something big, and to not over evaluate. And we've definitely have seen evolution within the community and with how the team interacts with the community, saying, hey, don't overhype this thing. They have adjusted to that. I just trying to understand why is acceptance. When does the acceptance start? We can't force people to see what we want them to see, and I'm sure Control knows that. Well, you can't force people to do anything, but you can speak the truth, and the truth has power. I've talked to people, and sometimes the truth doesn't have the impact that you might expect right away. It might be over a long period of time of someone hearing the same truths over and over and over again before it finally takes footing in their, inside them and their ideas, and they go, oh. And we all have that experience. We all have lies that we believe until we don't believe them. And I think that the people who didn't believe those lies spoke the truth to us until we were able to, regarding any idea, until we were able to get to a point. So the important point is, you don't not speak the truth to somebody because you think most people aren't going to listen to it. You speak it, you do it kindly, you do it respectfully, and it'll have its return. You know what I mean? It'll have its rate of return. The people that it's meant to change, it will change them over time. And I kind of see it this way. I've told this story before, but I had a friend that died from drinking. And I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I think intelligent design shows the existence of God. I think all that stuff. But so I warn about evil, and I think that our only hope, because we're evil, is to hope in the righteousness of God and then God's mercy. I think it's important to speak that truth before people die. I want to warn people about evil, just like saying, son, don't go out into the road, you will die. Like, a car can hit you and you will die. You warn them about evil so that they can stay away from it. It's also good to tell people about good things. Like, hey, if you work out and take care of yourself and eat good, you're going to feel 1,000 times better about yourself, and you're going to have a lot more energy and confidence in life. It's good to tell people about good and bad things so that you are leading them towards having a real positive impact on their life. JK is a CEO and experience. I mean, I don't want to insult John, but I just when you start talking about what happens, it does become, there's a lot of negatives there, and it sucks. Yeah, JK, you have to understand, if you're relying on John and the team to always answer your question and reassure you, that's not going to happen. Baby Doge, for example. So many questions the devs they got silence every time. What about other projects? If you're relying, well, see, my what I would say to that, Maris, if you're saying, you're relying on John and the team to always answer your question. Not necessarily, because I don't think they will, because they usually don't. They answer very general questions, but they don't really go into depth or detail. Now, the people who are working with them and that come out, they will say their side of the story, whether it's John's uncle or Charles or Ryan or whatever, or Thomas. But I'm not talking about relying on John for answers. I mean, I'm open to his side of the story. I don't think he's going to tell us. But what that leaves us with is everything he has told us, and his actions and what he has done. And it does tell a story, and there is conclusions to be drawn there. I've been watching CC's video since he started. In my opinion, he started going negative after he didn't get acknowledgement in a Safemoon video, because Crypto Control mentioned that he was surprised that they didn't mention him, but they chose other YouTubers instead. Basically, he's mad because they haven't given him any attention. Oh, I can talk about that, yes. So, Dark Moon Tim blew up, right? Because he was talking about what people want to hear about, but he did it in a really good way. And I loved him. He's a friend of mine. Was I jealous? Yes. Should I lie about that? No, I'll just be honest with you guys. Yeah, I was jealous that John would go, Tim, who? And it was like acknowledgement. And I was like, man, I put out such good videos on Safemoon. I made a video on why Safemoon was the best token, trying to get, it was a video designed for people to tell other people about it. I put out some of the highest viewed videos on Safemoon as far as the math of what you, how much money you can make. And if the team does this, this is what we can get. And it's based on your belief. So yeah, I mean, yeah, of course I was jealous. Was it right? No. But am I human and make mistakes? Yes. What did that jealousy lead to me wanting to therefore turn on Safemoon? No. No, it doesn't play a role in that. Because way before I was ever jealous, I covered Thomas quitting. So yeah, I've proven that your theory is wrong because I covered Thomas quitting before and the team quitting before Dark Moon Tim ever came into the picture, who was getting attention. So yeah, it's not true. It's illogical. That's just the truth. Well, it does suck, but it doesn't mean that therefore we can't come to any conclusions. John's wallet, millions of dollars did come from Bitmart too, the same wallets that were John's wallets that off-ramped millions and millions and millions of dollars. John does have a multi-million-dollar house. That is true. John does have very expensive cars. That is true. John does have very nice clothing. That is true. Those are all facts. There's not like I have to ask John, hey, John, do you have a multi-million-dollar house? I know he does. As an investor, I know John has a multi-million-dollar house. CCR, I respect you for admitting it. Yeah, dude, I can be prideful, hateful, lustful. I can be everything. This is why I try my best to not judge people, knowing that, you know what, I'm still going to judge people, but the most honest approach I can take to myself is to know that I'm flawed, just like everybody else. And if somebody says, hey, you did this, I say, you're right. And I admitted that to them. You know, I'll tell you guys want to know more about my insecurities? I went on the, let me just admit all these things. I was afraid. This would be great to admit this, and it'll probably end up being used against me. I started crypto a year ago. I'm not an expert. I learned a lot of what I learned from Mark. He willingly gave it whenever he was a huge deal, superstar in Safemoon's eyes, and he was willing to give me time and energy to explain things to me and even come and do a video on my channel when I wasn't like super big. I'd had some good videos, but I wasn't like as big as I had gotten. I know a lot of people might not consider me big, but as far as Safemoon YouTubers go, I was doing, as far as views go, I was definitely up there comparatively, even though I love all the other guys. We were competing for the views. And they started the Safemoon Roundtable, Generation Crypto did. And I didn't have a camera. I thought we were just going to be doing a space where we talk, but I didn't realize till I got there that everybody was going to have their cameras on. I'm like, crap, I don't have my camera on. So I was a little like, I felt out of place like that. And then I had people bashing me in the comments because I wasn't responding to certain information they were saying, come on, crypto, take control. And I've had this fear that people have thought that I'm something that I'm not, that they think that I'm this math wizard, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm using a calculator. That they think that I'm really smart when it comes to crypto. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm still learning just like you guys. That's why I constantly say there's probably people in here that know more than me. So I worried that people were going to realize that I wasn't what they thought I was, even though I wasn't trying to portray that, and that it would negatively impact me. Like people would be like, oh, he's actually a dumbass. He doesn't know anything. And his channel's going downhill. And everybody, like, don't listen to him. He's an idiot. That was one of my insecurities. And when on the Safemoon Roundtable, before the drip thing happened and the whole Chris Harris thing tried to turn the entire army against the Safemoon YouTubers for talking about a token, I was like, damn, these guys are all smart in really different ways. That have a lot of knowledge that I didn't, and I didn't want to be up there and look like a dumbass. Like that was part of it. But I still love those guys and I trust those guys. I'd actually be down to go back on there and, you know, and just be like, take a humble approach and be like, you know what, I don't know. Let's just learn, and let's learn together. So I'm down to go back on there, and those guys have actually proven to be like really cool, respectful guys who had the Safemoon army tried to be turned on to them. And so yeah, there's some of my insecurities, guys. But at the same time, I know some things, you know, as you guys who do follow me know this. You know, I'm the only one. Now I'm gonna get prideful, right? I'm the only one that told anybody that Swap and Evolve was selling twice as much as Swap and Liquify. And anybody can go out there and research information. Just because you don't have information, it doesn't mean you're less of a person than somebody else. But when you have information, it does give you power. So it gives people power to try to make other people look stupid and to make them feel insecure about themselves. So, anyways, guys. That was a lot more in-depth than I kind of meant to go. My goal of this was to keep it positive, but as I was talking about this, I realized you can't really talk about the psychology of what structured Safemoon and what went on without talking about a lot of negative things, without talking about Safemoon Dev, without talking about him designing it as a rug pull, without talking about him taking from the LP, without talking about Thomas and Hank and Ryan and John and the Gambia and being cut off from the Gambia. There's so many negative things to it, unless you try to put it like this extra amazing, unrealistic, positive spin on it. I mean, you could tell it that way, and I think that's how the story is told in a lot of investors' minds, that there is... John realized that these guys were actually doing bad things behind the scenes, and he cleaned house, and the hero came out standing, and they tell themselves that story a lot. And it's really interesting because if you watch people's faith, which hopefully we all have been listening and have an understanding of that word now, their belief, their trust in Safemoon went from like the team, which was mainly Papa and John, Papa John. I just ate them last night. Man, that stuff is not good for you. And once they all left, they were like, oh, Papa, he was bad, even though we all worshipped him as the best blockchain dev ever and defended him to the death. He actually was bad, and everybody else was bad, and it's John and Ryan. And now we've got John and Ryan, and now we've got a solid team, and things are happening, and Ryan left. And a lot of the people, when Ryan left, there was this weird division of like, no, I quit. No, I fired you. No, I quit. No, I fired you. And it was like, okay, what's going on here? And what we saw was for the first time, John, instead of saying what he did about Papa and Jack and Hank, which was we wish them the best and we don't talk about former employees, was almost kind of this shot at Ryan. If you go and look at what he said about Ryan, it was like, whoa, there was some real tension there. And then they go, oh, okay, well, you know, it used to be in the Safemoon team. Our faith used to be in the Safemoon team. And then it was Papa and John mostly. But then Papa left, so we shifted that to John. And it was John and Ryan. And now all our faith is like in John and the people who John approves, because he's the official source of Safemoon, until they get fired. And then they become unreliable. And then if somehow magically, I've thought like, okay, let's just try to think 4 steps ahead. If somehow magically John quit and somebody else took over, Safemoon Army, who rely on having heavy faith in the people that are running it, and it's okay, I did too. I had the same faith in Tom. I thought Thomas was an amazing wizard because I didn't know any better. And I do think that he's still like way beyond me, but I don't think he's the blockchain wizard that we thought he was, unfortunately. And he might have felt that same pressure that I felt, where people are worshiping you and you don't want them to find out that you're not what they think you are because they've put you on a pedestal. I imagine he went through that same thing. And it's like, you enjoy when people think you're smart, but you don't want them to find out that maybe you're not as smart as they think you are. I mean, it's either going to go to the new person that takes over, and I'm not saying someone new is going to take over, I'm just saying if this happened, or it would shift to like the community, which at that point I'd be like, okay, that's a much more reliable thing, even though the community is so divided, so toxic to each other. Like, we all have a lot of growing up to do. And I think just talking about these ideas and talking about standards of judgment and being better than each other would help go a long way for us to self-reflect, because like what we are is we suffer because of the selfishness causes you to suffer. It does. And it may manifest itself through these different beliefs and perceptions and actions, but ultimately there's peace in not judging people. There's peace in wanting to help people. Those people just operate on a higher frequency and they want to pull people to their level. Like, that's how it is. You want to pull people to where you're at. When you have that freedom to not feel scared of ideas, or even in school, I don't know if you guys ever felt this when you were in school, where if you were like extremely nervous and like, oh gosh, what do people think this about me? And you're just so in your head about yourself, and you're basically stuck on all these ideas that are based on like you focusing way too much on yourself. And for me in middle school, I had this clicking moment from being someone who's so shy and so introverted to like, oh, everybody feels this way. And then I just felt this freedom. And when you get this freedom from these ideas, you tend to want it from other people. The idea of truth and what's right and light, it's also associated with the idea of love. We're more loving people when we have more truthful beliefs about ourselves and about other people, and intentions towards other people. When your intention is to destroy somebody else, you don't have a truthful, loving, light perception or action towards them, and your intention is to hurt somebody else with the truth, you still have hate in your heart and selfishness and the desire to tear them down. So, yeah, I don't know what I intended this stream to be, but it ended up being a very long rant on the psychology of human beings and ourselves and how that leads to our faith in Safemoon and how we treat each other, but also how we perceive different investments and what's coming up. Because ideally, if some of us find the next Bitcoin, if I find the next Bitcoin, if I find something where I think this is going to be huge, I'm going to tell the people that listen to me about it. I feel like I should tell you guys about that. Now, unfortunately, because what happened with Mark with the hack, most people don't want anything, and I understand that. I completely understand. But I'll be honest with you guys. In my perception, what Mark is doing is huge. Now, I do need to dig deeper into that before I start promoting it, and that is what I'm going to do. But I think that what he's managed to do with contracts, I do think that he might just be like a huge name in the space one day. Not just a small guy who was associated with a contract that got hacked. Because when he approaches contracts, he says, we don't take any of the investors' money, which to me is like, that made me humbled. I was like, damn, even with my own project, I was thinking because I came up with the project that I deserve to, get paid well for it. But I was wrong. I should put myself in the exact same playing field as all the other investors, that I'm on the same playing field as you. And yes, we're investing early in it by knowing about it early, but I also want to balance it for later investors, to create incentive for later investors to actually have a real reason to get in other than to just fuel the early investors. There's a way to balance this wealth. Is how I approach the psychology of how I approached a contract. Is how do you balance the wealth? How do you stop the Ponzi scheme of it, but still allow for people to make a lot of money? How do you reward the faithful of the project and punish those who leave in such a way that it balances the project, while still creating incentive for people to want to buy? That was my approach to the project, which is extremely important when you look at the psychology of how different projects are being approached. And I think that this honest, truthful approach and perception of projects, of what works and doesn't work and what's best for the whole, is where real innovation is going to happen within the space. And I do think that Mark is doing that, and I want to be a part of that. And I think that my idea is going to be a part of that. Now, a lot of people are going to accuse us of, accuse me of trying to FUD Safemoon in order to steal their investors, which I think is the worst approach. Like, if I wanted to get Safemoon investors, I would just keep hyping up everything about Safemoon and then tell them about my project, and I'd pull a ton of people. I just think that's dishonest to do, and I'm not going to do that way. In fact, I do the opposite. It's like, I will tell you guys the truth, knowing that you guys will hate me, knowing that you'll cancel me, knowing that I'll lose hundreds of subscribers, knowing that it'll have a negative impact on what it is I'm trying to do in the crypto space, because I think the truth is worth telling in spite of the consequences. And I think that ultimately telling the truth will pay off eventually, in this life and the next. So Mark puts saying, we're not taking, I mean, imagine somebody making a contract and saying, we will not take investors' money. We're not taking a marketing fee. We're not taking like a private wallet that we can sell off on them. We're not giving ourselves the most rewards. And we want to make something that is actually innovating contracts. If you look at what he's making and the innovation that's happening with XUSD, it will blow you away. I will make videos on this. You guys will be blown away by how this works. It's not to steal investors. I want you guys to invest in whatever it is, whatever you believe. Do what you believe, but take an honest approach to your own beliefs. I'm just letting anybody who trusts me know that I feel this way about Mark and about what he's making. It's already been on it. Unless the dollar collapses, which I said, Mark, what if the dollar collapses? He says, even if that happens, this is tied to everything else that has the dollar value. So yeah, I mean, what Mark's doing is insane. And I personally do feel if there is a type of next huge thing, I do think it's Mark. And Mark's didn't tell me to make this video. I'm just telling you guys this for those of you guys that trust me. If you don't trust me, you don't trust Mark. I totally understand why 6 million got hacked. Completely reasonable. And I let you have that perception and belief, and you let me have my perception and belief that what he's doing is probably going to be huge. And not just because he's promising things that sound great. It's because he's actually in the contracts doing insane things with contracts in order to provide liquidity, in order to provide all kinds of things that's based on the whole instead of the few. So yeah, I'm gonna read some comments and I'll probably enjoy my weekend. I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you guys don't hate me, and I hope you know that I try to do my best to just be willing to be wrong. To know, you know what, maybe Tom, you're being selfish here. Yeah, my name's Tom. Maybe Tom, you're being conceited here. Maybe you're being an asshole here, and you need to work on that. That's the most I can do. Is, hey, we have flaws, and we need the room to fail and the room to grow. Every one of us do. We need that. So we need to give that to other people too, knowing that we're just not better than them. I need room to fail and room to grow, and so does everybody else. So when I correct people, it shouldn't be with the hopes of letting them know how much worse they are than me, so that they can just realize how dumb they were. Because then if I did it that way, they're going to do it that way to someone else. They're going to say, oh, now that I know what he knows, I'll do it the same way. But if you do it lovingly, if you say, hey, I know that there's a lot of our egos tied up in this topic, but if this is actually true, then it means this, and you have a positive impact on somebody, that's going to continue to flow. And I think that within the world, this is what we see, is that hatred is kind of one of the dominating factors of our experience between humanity. Oh, God. There's somebody in here. I love that somebody comes in spamming naked fun girls here. I don't have a moderator. If I do have a moderator, could you ban that account? So let me read some of your comments real quick, and I'll probably call it a day, but I hope you guys have a good weekend, no matter who you are. Take care of yourself. Maris says you're wanting accountability, control, and sometimes you're not going to get that, and I'm just being honest with you. The only accountability at this point is in court, if it goes anywhere. I don't. So we might get into my religious beliefs. For me, accountability is just talking about the truth, people knowing the truth. You know what I mean? But I also believe that the truth isn't just this concept of right information, that it's like reality. Talk about what's real, what's true is real. It's the same thing. Truth is a force of life, and it's going to deal with all the lies and all the evil. Truth wins out in the end. And this is where you get into the idea of judgment. I do believe in judgment for the evil that's been done on the earth, which once again goes back to, if you've broken a law, you can't justify yourself by not breaking that law anymore. You've already broken it. If there's a good judge, he can't say, well, you never murdered anybody else again, so therefore I'll let you go. He says, no, I have to hold you accountable because you murdered. And because we've all lied and hated and lusted and stolen and been hateful to each other and been selfish, we've broken the law of what a human was supposed to be, which was loving and putting each other first. And what is the consequences of that? It's death. And death is separation from the body. And there's a second separation, which is being separated ultimately from reality, from truth, which I believe is hell. So our only hope is if God was willing to have mercy on us. And I believe that Jesus dying on the cross, literally taking on like what we've done and suffering for it, so that we can be seen as righteous, so that God can forgive us while maintaining his justice. Because if he just forgave us without a sacrifice, he would be an unjust God. It'd be like a judge letting go the person that killed your wife or your kids. He'd be an unjust judge. But if the judge steps in and takes the sacrifice himself for you so that he can bring you to eternity with him, to me, that's the point of life. And when we look at the driving factor of self, it's self-righteousness. And to me, like, the heart of believing the gospel, and I'm sorry for ranting on this, but this is the deepest truth in my perspective of reality, is that our self-righteousness, our self is what's driving our entire thoughts and construction of thoughts. Like, everything that we do is driven from a sense of self. And this is where evil comes from. This is where hate comes from. And we also think we're righteous. So I think realizing the truth that accountability is going to happen to us, that the source of all our existence is going to hold us accountable for what we've done in the body, and that we've done evil, and that we're not righteous, brings you to a point of actually submitting yourself to God, and to saying, God, I've sinned against you, and I realize my entire existence is on the line, and that I'm going to die. And if this place called hell is real, I'm going to go there, and it's not going to be pleasant. I'm going to wish I wasn't there. And this is, to me, this is something that happens within your soul, and it's not even really something you control. Like, the truth is going to do this to you, or it's not. The truth just affects you, or it doesn't. And I think that what will happen is that what really needs to happen for people to, because the gospel is preached all over the world, but it's really hidden from our hearts because we're self-righteous. But the person who is really convicted of God's existence and convicted of God's right judgment towards us, And to me, this is extremely important. This is between you and your source of your own existence was given to you. You didn't create it. You didn't create your body, the planet, the universe, the laws that guide the universe. You were given a body. You were given the ability to think. You were given consciousness. It was all given to you. This entire experience was everything that you love, the TV shows, everything has its source in the beginning of the universe. And it's a gift. And how you spent your time, you spent your time loving or hating. And most of us have spent a lot of our time hating and lying and being deceitful. But I think that the shift of salvation, of being forgiven by God, in my perception, happens when you finally realize that we don't have righteousness. Because once you realize that you're not righteous, the source of all your thoughts and everything isn't righteous, then there's the ability to actually turn to God for his mercy and to look to him for righteousness. And that's when God says, my son died on the cross. He's your righteousness. He died for you, and hope in his righteousness in his life and not your own. If you hope in your own life, you approach God through the law, through the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt have no other gods, thou shalt not covet. And we've all broken those laws. So if you approach God through your own righteousness and you have to stand next to the law, he says, you've lied, you've lusted, you've stolen, you've had unbelief, you've hated millions to billions of times your entire life. You fail the law. I provided my son as a sacrifice, and you could have believed in him and been saved, but you trusted your own righteousness, and now you're going to reap the consequences of that eternally. I'm just going to keep going. I'm sorry if you guys don't want to listen to this. You don't have to, but I think this is extremely important, and a lot of people don't really know that this is your entire existence on the line based on your understanding of these ideas. Is that if you look at the Bible, it was all about God creating a human race, purposing evil to exist so that he can have mercy on them, so that he can create a family that he dies for, so that he can show to existence a part of him that hadn't been revealed yet. If everything was perfect, then God wouldn't be known as Savior. He wouldn't be known as righteous judge against evil. And he chose to, in a righteous way, create a universe where evil does exist so that he can have mercy, so that he can execute good judgment. And he lets us choose for ourselves. We choose evil. That's why we get mad at people for choosing evil and choosing to do evil. It's because we know it's in ourselves that it was a choice. So by God allowing this universe to exist, he has, at the ultimate purpose, saving people who reach the end of themselves. And it's to me, it's like the scripture says, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? And it's like, what does it profit you if you met the perfect person, fell deeply in love with them, and Safemoon moons to $1, and you have millions of dollars, and you have the perfect company, and you do all that art, and then you die and you lose your soul. And it's like, this is extremely important when it comes to evaluating what is important in life, because naturally we suffer because we're working our jobs and it sucks, and we want to not have to feel enslaved to a job, and we want to fall in love with the right person and have this great marriage and this child's and this life, or just have this great life that we desire. But the point is that you could lose it. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I live in Oklahoma. There was just this shooting that happened at an area that I was in, not when it happened, but that I would go in occasionally. That shooting in Tulsa, and it's weird when it happens to you, right? These mass shootings, it's like somebody flipped a switch. It happened in Uvalde, and that one's just like, holy cow, it's rough, right? It's rough. Something like that, to hear something like that. But it's weird when it happens in your town, because I think that every time it happens in somebody's town, everybody's like, I didn't expect it to happen here. It felt like it was something that would happen over there. And that kind of gets into this whole other idea and concept of what deaths should we care about? Should we only care about the mass shootings, or should we equally care about all the other deaths that are happening to children, the sex trafficking, the late-term abortions? I know these are a lot of concepts where people have a lot of beliefs associated with hatred, with people that hold a certain perspective. They're very divisive. But once again, it would go back to like, is your source of your beliefs in the spirit of putting everybody else before yourself, or is it in the pursuit of a self-interest? I think most our ideas are associated with self-interest. But anyways, the heart of what I was saying when it came back to the Bible, if a lot of people don't understand what the full picture of the Bible is actually about, and it's very boring when you just are reading what feels like in this story that doesn't have any relevance to you. But it's weird because like the Bible is actually a letter to you individually as a believer. If you look at the story in the beginning with Adam and Eve in the garden, they sinned against God. They didn't know good and evil. Satan tempted them, and they sinned, and they broke God's law. They knew they were naked, and then God slain an animal to cover their nakedness. So right in the very beginning, you have the purpose of the entire existence of the universe as God demonstrating himself as Savior, as righteous judge, and to bring himself a people into his family who worship him for attributes he wasn't being worshipped for. Now, we associate worship as a bad thing, but we worship all kinds of things. We worship celebrities. People worship John. People worship Safemoon. It's to hold it as worthy of praise. Well, I think the source of the universe is worthy of praise. And if that source of the universe steps in and suffers for all the evil I've done so that I can be brought to heaven with him, I think he's worthy of praise for that as well. And I think that's the source of the purpose of this existence, is that God created it in a way that he could step in and suffer for us so that he could bring us to heaven for him. And the Bible talks about we'll have a type of love for God. It's like if you had never sinned against God, you would love God, right, forgiving you things. But because you've done so much evil, we all have done so much evil against God, when we're forgiven this great debt that we owe him to his law, to sinning against him, there is this love of like, wow, despite of everything I've done to you, I have a love for you. Or you saved me. Despite all these terrible things I've done against you my entire life, you saved me from the consequences of that. And the consequences were eternal. They were the worst thing that you could possibly imagine. You saved me from destroying myself. So it's also within the purpose of evil existing, which a lot of people say, why would God allow evil to exist? Because the outcome is much greater than if it hadn't existed. God has this people who will love him with a love that no other creature could have, because they hadn't fallen and been saved and experienced God's mercy, right? So that's another, these are deep explanations of the purpose of evil in the universe. But if you look, that lamb that was slain in the garden, that was Christ. That was a picture of Christ. If you look at Noah with the flood, God told him, build this boat because I'm judging the entire world and I'm going to flood the world. The ark, once again, was what delivered them from God's judgment, was being in the safetiness of that ark. Well, that's Christ. You can be in Christ right now through faith, through submitting yourself to his righteousness and to God's judgments. You can be in the ark. You can be covered by the animal. In Egypt, we know the plagues of God happened in Egypt. He brought the frogs and the meteors from the sky and all kinds of crazy plagues, which was interesting because it was all their own beliefs. God used their beliefs and he used them against them, their own plagues. But the final judgment of God within Egypt was to kill the secondborn. He said, my spirit is going to come and it's going to kill the secondborn of everybody. The firstborn. So everybody who had a firstborn child is going to die. This is my judgment against them because they won't let my people go. My Israeli people are in this nation and they're enslaved. And I told the Pharaoh, let my people go. And he's not letting them go. So I'm bringing against this judgment to him. So within that judgment, it was also against the Israelites because God said, don't worry, my judgment will pass over you whenever you put the blood of the lamb over your doorway. So they had to kill a lamb. It had to be a perfect lamb. It couldn't be one with blemish. And they had to take the blood and put it over the doorway. And then they had to eat the lamb, which this gets into such a deep teaching. Philip, yes, this is one of the deepest teachings you could probably hear if I don't lose it. But the blood of the lamb, the Spirit of God would pass over and not judge them and not kill them. And it would judge anybody who didn't have the blood of the lamb on them. It would judge them. So you want the spiritual blood of the lamb on you right now, so that when you die, which could suddenly happen at any moment, you will be forgiven because of Christ's forgiveness, Christ's sacrifice. And it's done through you realizing that you're not righteous and you need God's righteousness. You need his forgiveness. You need his Spirit. This is the deepest truth I could tell you, and it's the most hated truth in the world. Jesus said, if the world hated me, it's going to hate you. So when you talk about speaking the truth of Safemoon and people hating you because they have ideas associated with them being rich, it's like, how much deeper is the idea of you not this is the root of what we are, of selfishness, is that the last thing we'd ever want to turn to is that we ourselves are not righteous. But this is where true salvation happens, is when we turn from ourselves to God for his mercy, and he provides Christ's righteousness. And we stop hoping in ourselves and thinking we're righteous and thinking God is evil. And the shift happens, and we start saying, I'm evil, you should judge me, and I need your mercy. And you start hoping in his mercy, and he provides his son's righteousness. And that was a picture in the Old Testament, all throughout the Old Testament. And it goes into the, after Israel's brought out of Egypt, brought out of slavery, you yourself, when the truth is called to you and you hear the words in your heart, you don't really have power over it. It's doing to you what it wants. If it wants you, it takes you. If it doesn't, it leaves you to yourself, and you choose your own ways. But when it takes hold of you, it's something that's happened that you can't stop. It's like being born. You didn't choose to be born. You couldn't choose to not be born. It happened to you. And it's a force that happened to you. The force of life happened to you. So when the truth goes out, and the truth of God's word and God's judgment goes out, it just goes into certain people, and it works within them to convict them of the reality of God and his judgment, and how everything came from him, and how there's going to come a time where they're going to die, and if they have no hope in him of themselves before the law, because they've broken the law, every aspect of it. The Bible says if you break even the tiniest part of the law, that you're guilty of breaking the whole thing. There is absolutely no hope for you if you've sinned against God, and we all have done it probably billions of times. This is the most offensive truth that you can tell anybody, because it says you're evil and God is good, and he's going to judge you, but he's willing to have mercy on you. But this is where true salvation happens. This is where you have the blood of the Lamb cover you, or you're in the ark, is to take time between you and your Creator. This is between you. Your entire existence right now is between you and your Creator, your source. And our time is running out. Whether it's cancer or disease or a sudden death or a shooting or whatever, we don't have much time before we get called back, and they say, what did you do with the life that I gave you? Did you submit to me in my righteousness, or did you pursue on in your selfishness against me, and your unbelief against me and against my laws? And now you're going to be judged. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in the laws of the land you live in. If you break those laws and you get caught, you're going to be held accountable. And there's nowhere to hide from God. He's omnipresent, omnipowerful. He created the universe. He's going to make sure that evil doesn't rule at the end of this giant story that we're a part of. So with all of the Old Testament, it was a shadow of the New Testament. And within the New Testament, it was the fullness of it. Christ actually did come. He actually did die on the cross 2,000 years ago for our sins. He actually did suffer for us, for our unbelief. So that anybody who hears this message, I really want, if there's even if there's only one person in here who's listening to me, I really want you to understand something that I suffered with so long, which was to how can I really know I'm saved? I don't want to just have an idea that I might be saved because I said a prayer. I want to actually know the reality of being forgiven before God. And the closest I've ever felt to this was through seeking it in the scriptures. There's different covenants within the Old Testament. I'm just ranting about this. If you guys don't want to listen to this, that's totally fine. I didn't expect it to go this way, but it's important enough to go this way. In the Old Testament, there's the Abrahamic covenant and there's the Mosaic covenant. They're just fancy words, Abraham and Moses. Abraham was given a promise of faith that him and his wife were going to have a child. This was God telling him, I'm going to do something regardless of what you're capable of doing. It was a promise to him of what God was going to do. The Mosaic covenant was Moses going up to the Mount Covenant with Israel after they had been taken out of Egypt from slavery, and God gave him the 10 Commandments. And it said, if you obey these laws, this was God's message to his Israeli people, if you obey these laws and do what I command you, I'll be your God and you'll be my people. But if you disobey these laws, I'm going to bring the judgments against you. Which gets into the sword, the famine, and the world-ruling beast, which is really interesting when you get into end times, because I think that cryptocurrency is actually going to be integrated into the end times of the world and the world-ruling beast. It's a world-ruling structure that takes over, and I think the New World Order is where we're going, and that's the part of the end times. But the difference between the Mosaic covenant, which was God telling man, if you obey these laws, I'll be your God, and Israel could not obey those laws. They were not able to, in and of themselves, keep the righteousness of the law because they pursued it through works, through their efforts at keeping it, instead of through faith. And the difference between faith and And the difference between those two covenants is the Abrahamic covenant happened before the Mosaic covenant. And God told him, even though you're not able to have a child, even though her womb is dead, you're going to have a child. And from this child will become, I'm going to make you so many children that you won't even be able to count the stars, is how many children is going to come from you. And it said that Abraham believed God, and it was imputed righteousness to him. God declared him righteous, not because he was righteous, but because he trusted God's promise, even though he wasn't able to fulfill what God was promising him. Abraham couldn't have decided on his own, I'm going to have a kid, even though we're not physically, biologically able to because we're too old to. It had to be a miracle of God. And if you read into the New Testament, it says that when God did that with Abraham in the Old Testament, he didn't do that just for his sake, but for your sake also, so that you can understand that God will declare you righteous right now if you believe on Jesus, whom God raised from the dead. He says just all it was you trusting a promise. So God promises you, if you trust in my son who died for your sins, who is your righteousness, you can't be clinging to your righteousness while trusting this promise. It's impossible. You have to let go of your righteousness to trust that Jesus died for your sins. And we have such a deep clinging to our own righteousness that this is why we're so selfish. This is where the source of evil of this world comes from. If we all put each other first, the world would be a righteous place. But we all have a habit of putting ourselves first and thinking we're better than other people. And anybody who steals, they're doing something they wouldn't want done to themselves. Anybody who murders, you ever watch these murderers put their hands up after they do a mass shooting? They put their hands up. Oh gosh, don't shoot me. I don't want to suffer, but I'm okay with causing suffering with other people. So the entire biblical story is a message to those who have the ears to hear. The Bible says, let him who has ears hear what the word of God says to him. That God is calling you and saying, hey, your entire existence is on the line and my judgments, and you're going to suffer and life is going to suck. Not just the fact that you're going to die and end up in hell, but that actually pursuing life through a selfish perspective is misery. It's not a pleasant experience. And the more lies that we believe, the more unbelief that we have, the more unpleasant and delusional and painful the experience is. And back to that deep teaching when I was talking about within Egypt how they had to eat the lamb the same day they had to put the blood over the post, their door, so that God's judgment would pass over them. Jesus said, I am the truth, I am the light, I am the life. So truth is not just correct information on a paper. It is the force of life. It is life. It is reality. It is consciousness. Everything is conscious at its source, and everything's connected. And Jesus says, when he did communion in the Passover, the Passover was take, eat, this is my flesh. I give it for you. This is my body. This is my take and drink. He wasn't saying do this physical thing because it's actually my body. He's saying I am literally what the substance of reality is and the truth of reality. And that truth is, every truth is deeply connected to each other, from the truth of what color your hair is to what you've done in your life, to the source of the universe and where it came from, to what is morally right and wrong, and to what is actually going to happen to people who have done evil and good. And is that all of those things are deeply connected. You can't separate those things from what they actually are, which is the truth, which is a force of life. It's a force of judgment. Truth is a force of judgment against evil, and it's a force of mercy against those who are willing to find it. These ideas are inseparable. Light, love, truth, righteousness, judgment, mercy. And Christ was all those things. So this really changed my perception to stop seeing these ideas as part of movies that I watched in life as like, oh no, this is literally, the reason this is in our movies is because it came from our imaginations, which came from like what we are and what life is. Life is this duality of truth and not truth. And ultimately, the deepest conspiracy of life is Satan trying to convince you that God's not real, that judgment isn't going to happen, that Christ didn't die for your sins, and that he doesn't exist, so that you can go about your life doing whatever you please, and that there will be no consequences, and that evil will rule in this universe. And that doesn't match with the reality that we can perceive. The universe demonstrates that truth is dominant over the lie. That light is dominant over darkness. Darkness flees from light. And I think that this, while it might be the most offensive what feels, it's just for our flesh, for that selfish part of ourselves, it's like the hardest, cringiest thing. Like, we don't want to hear these ideas, just like people don't want to hear the truth about negative things about Safemoon that just are true. On a much deeper level, when it comes to our sense of self and what we believe about life, it's like one of the last things you want to hear is that you're not righteous, that God's judgments are true, that hell is real, that heaven's real, and that without his mercy that you are going to die in your sins, and you're going to reap the benefits of sin, of rebelling against your creator, the one who gave you this existence. Most offensive truth that you could find, and you're going to be hated for it. You're going to be crucified for it spiritually. People are going to mock you, make fun of you, attack you. But some people are going to hear that and they're going to go, holy cow, like, that's real, that's true, and you're right, and I do want mercy, and I don't want to be separated from life, and I don't want to go to hell, and I don't. Most importantly, what this is calling us to is our creator. I don't know if anybody's listening, but I'm just going to keep going for anybody who does want to listen, or who maybe just thinks this is funny and is mocking me. But when you think about what God is, like, imagine somebody you know. Imagine, this would be terrible, but let's just give it as an example. Imagine John from Safemoon is God. Let's just say that he eternally existed and always existed, and he has ultimate dominion over every single thing, ultimate control, all knowledge, and all power, and he always existed. I feel like naturally our questions to him, and using John is a really bad example because he's not God, but I would say, John, like, why do you have this dominion over everything? And because you're the source of all things, John, it means that you're kind of like the purpose of all existence. Like, everything comes from you. So therefore you have something that nothing else can ever have, because everything else is created. So you have something about you that separates you from everything else. You're eternal. You have ultimate dominion. You control all things. You have ultimate authority and ultimate power of what happens. And you've given creation and this beings a certain amount of knowledge and understanding and power of good and evil to live a life. And you've given them music and flowers and all these different ways to express themselves, which is really interesting for, like, these ideas are inseparable. This is just what reality is. If you start to be logical and approach this information, you come to the same conclusions. And it's so interesting to see, like, for one, life is calling us to God, and God is the truth, and God is the light, and God is Jesus. And if you look at what the human imagination was designed for, was it designed to have lies sitting in as the source of its driving factor? Was it designed to have self sitting as the source of its driving factor of what motivates the will? Or was it designed as truth, supposed to be sitting as the driving factor of our wills, as love? Excuse me. Clearly, you would say, well, yeah, truth, ideally, yes, truth should be what motivates us. And I don't think we'd be stealing and murdering and killing if we were motivated by truth. I think we'd be loving, and we would tell people about the judgment of God and about the mercy of God and about the hope of God, that he promises us that he's going to remake the world anew. And that everything that everybody holds so important, from movies to music, it's all going to fade away. Even in the atheistic perception, the world will fade away. The sun will die out. They will be forgotten. But that perspective is not consistent with all of reality. And I'll go over this real quickly. That we ourselves are creators. We were made in the likeness of God. And God is a creator. He forms things. He has a will. He's able to form things and call them into existence. So whenever we make things, we ourselves reveal things about ourselves, like Safemoon. As a really terrible example, Kyle created Safemoon. Well, what's the most at the very bottom, what is the absolute most basic thing you could tell me about Kyle based on him creating Safemoon? Well, I would say it's that he exists. And then I could say, well, what was his intentions with creating Safemoon? And then you get into, well, I know about Kyle that he probably intended it for it to be a rug pull. So I could tell that this person had evil in his heart. So this is a very interesting approach that people haven't really been taught to realize, that's taught in the Bible. It says God's invisible attributes have been clearly seen and understood by the things that are made, so that we are without excuse, meaning that God has designed the universe in such a way that we can't say we didn't know he existed or not. And it's there to be seen. You just have to be honest with yourself when you approach the information. And what's so interesting is we have a different approach to ourselves than we do to the universe. We worship people that make amazing music, and these actors who are so good, and they made this movie and they made this technology and all these creations that reveal how intelligent and powerful, and it reveals their existence, and they're worthy of praise. But the universe itself must have come from something less than what we are. And to me, you get into some massive contradictions here when we don't believe that there's a source of the universe. It contradicts all of reality. Nothing has ever come from something has never come from nothing. There's not one thing that you can point to in all of existence where out of nothing something came and had absolutely no source. Everything has a source. To suggest that everything came from nothing is a contradiction of everything that we can see and observe. But even further, when you look at trying to say, okay, well, maybe it had a source, where did he come from? And I'll show you guys this idea, because I had to struggle through it myself, which is that if there was ever a time that absolutely nothing existed, like absolutely nothing, no matter, no energy, no time, no matter, then nothing would have ever happened. Literally, nothing could happen to anything to ever produce anything. And once you understand that idea, that if there was a time that absolutely nothing existed, which is what a lot of people are taught to believe, that, oh, just with enough time, everything happened. And you're taught to believe that a creator is similar to believing in a fairy tale. They teach you that it's stupid and that you're wise and righteous and that you should be hateful and condescending to people who have a belief in a God, and look how wise and smart you are. But those beliefs contradict all of reality, and I'll get to that in a second and a little bit further. Which is that the computer, the technology that we use to listen to each other, that came from a source that is demonstrating that it came from a conscious, intelligent, powerful source that had a will. And if you look at that, it means that everything that's been created is demonstrating God's existence and points back to his existence, his eternal existence. And because nothing could ever produce anything, that means that something had to always exist. In order for anything to ever exist ever, something had to always exist. The existence for anything to exist requires an eternal existence of something. Which means that God himself does not require an existence, but that things that do come into existence do require an existence. And we know the universe came into existence. We know we came into existence. So it's not a contradiction there to say that the eternal thing from which all things come from is the only way that anything could ever exist, ever. Logically, nothing could exist unless something always existed. It doesn't just magically pop into existence and start creating things. And to me, these are just logical truths that anybody can find out on their own if you pursue them. And these truths are deeply connected to the psychology of what we're talking about, Safemoon, and the importance of looking for financial freedom whenever you might die. You could just die today, and we spent so much time focusing on things that didn't matter. And what is the most important truth I could have spoken to you is the only reason why I'm doing this right now. But when you look at intelligent design, yes, if I make a video game and I design all these laws, it reveals my existence, my will, and my intentions of it. And if we consider ourselves in the human species an intelligent species, and we know that the more we learn, the more we realize that we don't know, right? Every smart person has ever said that. It's like, you're not smart when you think you know everything. You're smart when you realize that you know nothing. And they're saying that the scope of information that there is to know is so vast and so beyond what we know that the more we learn, the smaller we realize our understanding is of it, that it reveals. And what this creates is a very interesting contradiction in somebody who's an atheist, and it's very logical. Does the structure of the universe come from a less intelligent source than ourselves, when we ourselves cannot understand it and can only understand fractions of what we're studying in science and biology and technology? It would be illogical to say, I can't understand even a tiny scope of all of what there is to understand. But the source of that thing must have come from something less intelligent than me, right? And you say, okay, that's the intelligence factor. But if you add the power factor, we've created amazingly powerful things. What Elon Musk is creating with Starlink and Tesla and SpaceX. One of the most powerful rocket ships we've ever created. Absolutely nothing compared to the power of our galaxy and our universe. The scopes are incomparable. Now, would we attribute the power of the universe, the same force that even brought us into existence, and the intelligence of that to something less powerful and less intelligence than us? No, but we've been taught that that's science. So literally what we've been taught is contradicts all of observable reality, but a lot of people just haven't been exposed to those ideas, and within themselves they've been taught to have a sense of self-righteousness and a sense of feeling better than other people for holding those ideas to be true, or they just didn't realize that there wasn't a logical explanation. But intelligent design and the source of and everything that's created does point back to its source and tell us things about its source. And the source of the universe is telling us that there is an eternal, all-knowing, all-powerful God who has placed a law within man that tells him to love thy neighbor, to do good, and to love thy God, and to have faith, that which they've broken. Like, this is just reality. There is no way to get beyond this. These ideas and concepts are not a made-up story. It's just what's observable in reality. Good and evil are observable. Intelligent design is observable. The idea of everything coming from nothing contradicts everything that we can see and observe. And you get to a point where it's like, okay, do you want the truth or do you not? And I think that the problem within humanity, especially when you look at people, is our desires are not the truth. Like, people don't desire the truth about Safemoon. They desire a lie. They desire the idea that everything is going to be perfect, even though that idea cannot be confirmed for them. They desire to believe things that aren't true. And I'm not saying always. There's a lot of people that are just like, hey, I'm hoping for the best, but I don't know. But certain people. But this also applies to each and every one of us in our lives, that we've had times of believing lies that we didn't want to believe the truth. Whether it's you thought you were better than other people. You thought you were amazing. You believed in a lie that some person was, the best person for you, whenever everybody else could see that they weren't good for you. And you had to really struggle and come to the suffering of the idea that they weren't, because you desired it so much. And we desire this life, but we don't desire God. And that's ultimately the problem. And I think that when the truth of God's word gets spread out, it doesn't just create in you a desire to be free from God's judgment and to be saved, but it also creates a desire of righteousness, of what's good and holy, and to know God. Those are the same things. Not just to be forgiven and to live my life in however I want, but to actually have a change in my life so that I can know God more intimately, so that I can know this being that brought me into the universe and who the source of all things is, that he has something about his existence that nobody else has. He should be far more desirable than the universe he created. As amazing and powerful and beautiful as this universe is, and the structure of humans, and you could say, man, that woman is so beautiful, and man, that building is so beautiful, and nature is so amazing. Do you think God is less beautiful and amazing than the entire existence that we attribute those things to? Of course not. Once again, God is going to be even more beautiful, even more amazing. And I think that God wants us, he's calling us to turn from our sin, turn from our selfishness, self-righteousness to Christ on the cross, not just so we can be forgiven and live a life for an eternity, but so that we can know him and experience him. Because ultimately, because God is the truth, and because we don't believe in him in our lives, and because we don't desire him, because when you desire evil, you don't desire God. We are living an existence that only could happen by God, but in our hearts without God, which is why you have to be born again. The truth has to go into your mind, into your understanding, and it has to come alive so that you can see the reality of God and desire him. So I did not expect this to happen, and I'm surprised this many people are still listening. But I just want you guys to know that I think that's the most ultimate, that's what's important, not Safemoon. Safemoon is, it's interesting, and we have to get by in this life, and we have to think of our finances, and you know what, that's how I feel. It's like I I know that God is all that matters, and I want to spend that time that way, but I still desire evil things. I still desire, sexual things that I should, and I still can be prideful. I desire wasteful things, knowing that I could be out there telling people the truth and living in the truth and setting a good example for it. Which is why, I'm trying to do my best to get by financially in this life and to be able to help my family if I can, which I think it's a lot of goals of a lot of you guys too, is like you want to do well in crypto so that you can help your family, but maybe it's just Lambo. I don't know. But at the same time, I know that it doesn't matter. Like the truth that actually matters is the one that's the hardest for us to pay attention to. It's like the hardest thing for us to give our thoughts and attention to because it's the most repulsive to our egos, to our sense of self. I'm scared to read the comments because I feel like I'm just going to get shredded in the comments, but I'll read them in a second. Let me check out this comment real fast. Okay, cool. I'll have to read that later. Did CC do DMT and I missed it? No, man. I almost did it once. I've done acid before, though. People repent and wash away your FUD or thoughts and give your Safemoon to CC. All right, you guys are actually pretty funny. God says here, bro, Safemoon for you. Okay, I'm going back to watching my TV show. Have a good one, Control. We will fight another day. All right, Maris, have a good one, bro. My Safemoon family. I'll catch you later, Maris. I'm going to take a bath in my Safemoon. Okay. Reborn safely. Joe W. When we are millionaires, we're going to look back and say, remember when CC went off topic and laugh about it. See, that's kind of what I was expecting. We went from crypto control to Christian control. Oh, that should be a new channel, right? Christian control. To me, it's so hard. I don't, I always feel bad sometimes. There's a part of me that knows that people really don't like talking about that topic. So, and I know that it's the most important thing for me to tell them, so I shouldn't feel bad. But sometimes I feel bad from like, well, I made people listen to an idea, or especially if you're like having a conversation with somebody, like you guys could just click off the stream and be like, wow, that sucked. But whenever I talk to other people about it in a conversation, I feel like I'm making them experience something painful within themselves. And I don't really like doing that. But at the same time, I know it's for a greater good. Man, Oklahoma must be wild. Honda Accord, not Lambo. That's the truth. Does anyone know if the billboards in New York is still displaying the SafeMoon ad? It should be. It should be doing it for a year. It should be for a year, and they should be able to change it to whatever they want whenever they want to. I haven't seen it in a while. Ever done any psychedelics, CC? Took acid once, changed a lot about how I view existence. Yeah, I got heavily into smoking pot in high school, which it was interesting. Psychedelics have a very interesting effect on basically if you look at what the effect was on hippies is they thought God was in everything. And to me, like, that's just true. Like, if you look at what reality is, it is real, it is true. So I think that by what happens is that you're on a path within yourself, within your own line of thinking that is always happening, but there's something about your thoughts that you don't really quite realize that's happening, that's causing you to not really perceive ideas in life correctly. You're kind of stuck in a pattern of thinking. We all are. And psychedelics definitely help you. They kind of just force you to see things from a different perspective. Not necessarily saying it's always true. You might think something's amazing that we might just be like, dude, yeah, doors open. It's cool and all, but not the most amazing idea. And like somebody who's high on weed is just like, dude, no, but you don't understand. Doors open and you walk through them and you're in a new area. To them it's an amazing idea. But then I studied how the CIA and the government tested psychedelics on the CIA, or not CIA, what is it, another intelligence group, maybe it was, and they found that it basically made humans more creative. So I definitely did psychedelics with the goal of trying to go within myself and understand humans better. And yes, for people who don't think about these ideas, it becomes like wacky. Like, what are you talking about? But to me, it's what's happening inside of you, and you just haven't seen it yet. You do love your neighbor? That's awesome. I hope you do, man. Do you have any thoughts on reflex? I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on that one, man. Awesome, bro. God's not dead. No, he's not. God is very alive. Honestly, try DMT, though. Seems like you'll take it well. I read a whole book on DMT, and I got to tell you guys who are still listening, there's something really funny. There was a guy who got approval to give people DMT, which is the strongest psychedelic you can give somebody. It's way stronger than acid. And the general experience, and I would not recommend this to anybody, like, you can just meditate and and find the ideas about the universe yourself without having to force yourself into a psychedelic experience. But DMT, basically, would it be like you going from where you're at right now to the other side of the universe in seconds, is how it's described by many, many people. And I almost did it, but I'm like, man, am I really ready to experience that? I'm like, nah, I don't want to go to the other side of the universe. But I read a whole book on this guy who got permission to sit people down and do different doses of DMT. And everybody experienced that. Everybody experienced talking to different beings. But one guy, this is the only reason I had to bring this up because it's pretty funny. One guy like got raped by alligators. Like he was on DMT and he was just getting raped by alligators. So that was his experience. And as terrible as that is for that guy, like the book does talk about maybe he did something maybe he raped somebody and this was his judgment. But I just thought that was hilarious. Like, I'm sorry that guy had to go through that, but that's just super funny, like being raped by alligators. But yeah, I definitely think that psychedelics and meditation can play a role within helping people dig within themselves. Because yeah, when it comes to your thoughts and stuff, we run on autopilot. We don't realize we're a super computer. You can stop everything you're doing right now and direct your thoughts and your imagination towards anything. But we usually don't quite evaluate the ability to simulate ideas within ourselves and to seek information within ourselves. Because really, the mind is like a mega supercomputer, and you're not really responsible for the mind. We don't force it to put information together. We really just direct our attention towards ideas, and the mind will naturally produce results based on previous information, based on our desires, and based on other factors. But really all we're doing is guiding our attention. So when you start digging within yourself to see, what am I really? What is the purpose of life? What is this idea? And if you're willing to be wrong, you can explore a whole world within yourself of ideas that you didn't quite realize. Salvia, yeah, I think I tried that once. I posted this prior. I love the content, Cryptico. However, I feel like a lot of it is you defending yourself over and over. It's getting old. Don't let them live rent-free in your head. Just move on from it. Well, I don't know. I'd be down to have a conversation on that. I don't personally feel that way, but I'm down to, if you can provide logically to me how I'm being that way, then I'm open to it. Whale Hunter, I think that CC is trying to trick us into paying him Safemoon tithing. It's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, basically, guys, you guys need to all give me your money. No, I'm not going to say that. Although I do have members, guys. If you want to become a member, you can, and you get a little like Safemoon symbol next to your name, and you can like use the Safemoon symbol in my chat. Remember when CC got all crazy on us live? Yeah, see, it's crazy to people. And there's a scripture on that too. It says the gospel is foolishness to those that perish, but to those who are of us who are being saved, it is the power of God. So the gospel and salvation is foolishness to the unbeliever. It's seen as this stupid, unworthy idea of giving attention to that's dumb. And to the people that are being saved, it's like, this is the power of God to know the source of our existence and to know our creator. But you can't control people. You just got to speak the truth and it'll do what it intends to do. The first couple times you do DMT, you probably won't even break through, but get stuck in the waiting room, which is like being inside a kaleidoscope. Yeah, I've heard that. Lobotomy. I'm not doing that. I'm too scared to do heavy psychedelics anymore. I did a lot of weed and I did some acid one time, and I'm like, that's all I want. I just want to like take care of my body now, as far as heavy drugs go. Hi, I'm Tom. Hey, Crypto Control. How you doing, buddy? I hope everything is going well. What is your thoughts on Shibnobi? Have you ever had a look around the project? I haven't looked at it at all. I'm sorry about that, man. XLNC says Chris Harris lets himself down on Twitter. Good show, though. Yeah, I think that his just ego, if he could just grow as a person and be more accepting of people and not care so much about a Twitter space and Safemoon and care more about people, that would fix all those problems. But people have to grow it at the pace of life, which gets into another interesting doctrine. I don't know if you guys want to hear me rant about another crazy idea. I can for a minute. CC, are you auditioning for a talk at your church word on Sunday? No, I'm not. LL, no, it's a good experience, even the Kaleidoscope waiting room. So the other idea, I will go over this one briefly, but then I'm going to go about my weekend, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. If you want to listen to me rant about something else that is a pretty crazy idea and pretty crazy teaching that most people don't know about the Bible, I'm going to talk about this right now, which is like, and I like doing this from your perspective. It makes it a little more enjoyable experience. Let's say you're God, right? And you have all power and all knowledge. And let's say you decide, hey, I want to create a world and I want to create beings in this world. And could you, with infinite knowledge, create something without knowing what the outcome was? And if you have infinite knowledge, would there ever be a time where you would be like, oh, I didn't realize that? Would something ever like occur to you if you had all knowledge, all understanding? And it's kind of interesting because if you look at people who are really good at chess, they have all these different patterns they know, and they can see them play out 20, 30 moves ahead. Whenever I think about God and him creating the universe, no matter what setup you give God, he knows all the infinite possibilities of what could happen, and he knows the exact possibility of what will happen, and he has the power and the control, ultimate power and control, to determine it, to change it. So that if God set up the universe and he goes, oh man, I didn't want that to happen, if he felt that way, if it occurred to him, which is impossible, but just saying if it was possible, he could change it. And what that leaves us with is that literally the universe is exactly how it's supposed to be, in a sense, in the sense that God has determined it to be this way for a time being. And that means that literally every moment you get into this idea of what's called predestination. And a lot of Christians don't know the truth about the Bible, that God is absolutely sovereign over all things. He's sovereign, ultimate control over everybody who's saved and everybody who's not saved. And the people who are saved are not saved because they chose God, but it's because God chose them. This is the doctrine of what's called predestination. It comes from the word pro-horizo, the Greek word, which means predetermined boundary or predetermined for the light. And the scripture says in Romans 8:28, I believe, is, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son. And whom he did predestinate, he also called. And whom he called, he also sanctified. And whom he sanctified, he also justified. And whom he justified, he also glorified. And what does all that mean? It means that before God made the entire universe, he knew exactly who he was going to save. And he predetermined them, he predestined them, and he calls them, just like you hear the call to repentance right now. When you believe, he justifies you throughout your life. He sanctifies you. He slowly conforms you more and more to Christ, more and more to speaking the truth and loving and being hated by the world. And in the end, he glorifies you just like Christ was glorified. This is the purpose of the universe. And it also teaches that God is in control of all things. So that's another pretty interesting doctrine that I'm going to talk about. But that's probably enough Bible for today. If you guys want to, you can follow me on Apocalypto, APOKALUPTO, if you're interested in more of that conversation. Otherwise, I'll probably keep it more to crypto on this channel, but I don't mind really any time. To me, that those topics are so important that I don't really mind any time talking about those. Like, there's never a time where you shouldn't talk about that. Talk about the Nephilim story. That one will blow minds. Well, I'm not sure if we have the same agreement on that. But I'm down to have a conversation about it. Why do people still believe in Safemoon? Look at the price volume. Look at how fast Binance listed Shiba. Why haven't they listed Safemoon? Why? Well, people believe in all kinds of projects because we don't know the future is why people believe. You don't know what's going to happen. And many projects do have a J-curve. So people are allowed to believe in it. We shouldn't stop people from trying to believe what they want to believe, but we should speak the truth to them. But all right, guys, I really didn't mean for the conversation to go that way. I always feel bad, and I shouldn't, because it's like the most important thing I could talk about, right? But I do really appreciate you guys hanging out, and I hope that that was valuable for some of you guys. I'm probably going to be looking at how much money. Let's go back to money after talking about like such things. How much money does it take to get to different price ranges, like, 0.001 or 0.01, and how much you would need to have $1 million. But like I said, whenever I do these things, I always do it based off of your belief. I don't tell you what you need to believe what I believe about Safemoon. You need to sell, you need to buy. I hate that approach. I think it's dishonest because we don't know. I don't like hearing other people do it either. I'm like, oh man. But they do try to say not financial advice, but they literally say like, guys, stack up on Safemoon, not financial advice. I'm like, you literally just told them to do it. It was financial advice. But it's fine. But yeah, this is a really cool video that I'll probably be doing thanks to Mark, because Mark came up with like a equation that will tell you need to have this much in buys in order to hit this price. So I think people will really like that video. And there's some other ideas that I have for videos I could be doing as well. But yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out. I hope you guys have a good weekend. And I'll be honest, I don't believe in God. That's totally fine. I don't hate you for it. I don't think you're dumb or less than me. I do think that if you seek information and you seek God, that you'll find it. But the scripture teaches that, like, with the doctrine of predestination, that all men are spiritually dead, meaning that we don't have God or the truth inside of us as our motivating factor. And that's why we're evil. That's why we're also selfish and hateful and lying and self-righteous and all these things. But we think we're righteous, even though we have all those things, is because we don't have God in us. So the Bible says you have to be born again. And you don't choose to be born. So the seed of God, the truth of God, is being spread out on humanity. And it goes where it wills, and God gives the increase in who he feels like. If God wants you, and he will convict you of his word, you will believe, you will seek his mercy, and you'll be saved. If he doesn't want you, he'll leave you to yourself, and he'll just say, I'm going to let you decide for yourself what you want. And I know you're not going to choose me, but you're still going to have to appear before me in court. The Bible says that every man shall appear before the judgment seat of Christ to give account of the deeds did in the body, whether they were good or evil. So there's a warning of judgment and a promise of mercy and salvation to everybody. And on this side, you're going to be mocked. You're going to be hated for telling the truth, right? And for walking in the truth by the world that doesn't do that. On this side, they're going to laugh at you like you're stupid. They're going to mock you just like they did Christ. They're going to crucify you. And in the next life, I'm not going to take pleasure in people who were wrong. I'm not gonna be like, see guys, like up in heaven, see you idiots, I told you retards down there that you believe in God. Like, no, it's not gonna be that. Because I can't take credit for believing in God. It was something he did to me. So it's more just like, if it wasn't for God's mercy, I would be an unbeliever. And I didn't choose God, like God chose me. Just like you didn't choose your parents. Your parents chose to do an act that would produce a human being. And it works the exact same way with the truth. When you become born again of the truth, God chose to put his spirit inside of you to cause you to become alive. And that's new spirit inside of you that's born of the truth. It desires the truth. It desires God. It desires mercy. It desires to not be what it is. It doesn't. So that's where we have the teaching of, if any man come after me, let him deny himself, pick up his cross, and come after me. Where Paul says, I must decrease and he must increase. What we are must die so that Christ and our faith can come alive, and that we can live a life of obedience to God. And these are the most repulsive words you could tell somebody. But all right, guys, I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you guys probably on Monday, unless something huge comes out with Safemoon. And yeah, hope you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you guys later.